2 rounds remaining in the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Gregor Hutu continued to lead the championship, but Martin Kroenke, the last 2 races have been phenomenal for him, and he is looking to do the impossible chance of getting himself his first championship crown. The 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series is here next on RaceSpotTV.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go. As you love it.
Here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
Well done, ladies and gentlemen, just 2 rounds remain in the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series as we make our final trip to Europe. For this, the 15th round of the championship from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Now, before drivers go racing, as always, they have to go qualifying, and that is what is taking place right now. Will Vincent, along with Rachel Whiteford and Daniel Betterfield here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. As we say, qualifying is on the go right now, and you can see Martin Kroenke currently is on provisional pole position. We'll take a look at him because here he is out on the racetrack. And Rachel, for Martin Kroenke, this is just continuing what he's done the last 2 races. He's got a win, and right now, provisional pole once again in qualifying.
That's so true, Will. And Martin, he's had a great couple of races running up to now. He's got that momentum, and that's all important. Hopefully, he can continue that in today and head towards a potential championship.
So then, having a look, Martin Kroenke works himself down towards the Audi S here. He's actually just been bumped off by Enzo Benito in the Team Redline car. So Benito now goes into provisional pole position. And for Martin Kroenke, gets a bit of a wiggle out here. I believe that this is a warm-up lap for him. So you can see speed as he works himself out of the Audi like bend. There you'll see as he works himself towards the start-finish line. Once again, Martin Kroenke attempting to get himself back into the driving seat as he starts a flying lap, Daniel.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Martin Kroenke can eclipse Enzo Benito's 1 minute 9.289 on this final lap of his in qualifying.
So then we see coming up the hill, then this is that flat out section of the racetrack, what we absolutely love for these drivers. We'll have a look on board. You see there with Martin Kroenke, get our helmet camera up as he now works himself. This is such a fast section of racetrack, but you've got to be so picture perfect. These 2 corners, you work yourself with Vodafone, Rachel.
Yeah, definitely. It's really flowing. It's a very organic track. Not like Suzuka we've just been to. This track, you get into that rhythm, and that's important. And he looks like he's in the zone today.
Juheve just moving himself up into 14th place in qualifying, but we will stick it with Kroenke for the last couple of corners. His time to beat is a 1 minute 9.290 as he works himself down into Ari Lyndike corner. Once again, a little bit wide there coming into the corner. Should be a little bit better on corner entry. There you'll see he's going to work it down towards the start-finish line. Will this be a better lap for Martin Kroenke? The answer is going to be no, it isn't. He improves his time but does not improve his position. Kroenke, that is his qualifying over. He will not start on pole here today, Rachel.
No, he won't. And very tight exit for him there out of the final corner. Whether that's a quirk of this car's performance or not, I'm not sure, but you'd think tracking out a little more might have given him some more speed.
Andre Borcher currently running himself in the 3rd position, going to get his time as he comes past the start-finish line. Can he upset his teammate, moving himself onto the front row of the grid? The answer to that is going to be no, he won't. So Andre Borcher, no improvement for him. He remains in the 3rd position. But there you see Alexei Yakola for Glacier Racing. He is working himself now on the back end of the racetrack. And Yakola needs to get himself a bit of form here, Daniel, because he's had a tough couple of races. As he works himself now down towards the start-finish line, will he be able to improve in his 4th position? 109.438, he goes faster. That moves him up into P3 on the racetrack, Daniel.
Yeah, a very good time from Alexei Yakola there. But going back to your original question there, Will, about his form, he has had a couple of different races. So Alexei Yakola will want to finish the year on a high in preparation for next year, where everything resets, and he will hopefully be able to fight for the championship.
Antoine Hegling, have a look at him running outside of the top 15 right now as he works himself down into Vodafone. Now, one of the things that you will notice, Rachel, here today is that it is cloudy in places on the racetrack. Now, that is really going to affect the car's performance, especially on the opening laps of the race here today.
Certainly. I mean, these tyres are going to be cold. We're going to have to warm them up, and it means first couple of laps going to be very, very careful, Will. We all remember last week at Suzuka, it can go wrong, Will.
Yeah, as we have a look at 3-time champion Gregor Hutu looking to make it 4 as we ride along board with him as he works himself up the hill. Here you see your 3-time champion Gregor Hutu looking to make it a 4th championship, Daniel, and what he needs to do here today, it's simple. Finish ahead of Martin Kroenke, but his qualifying has been tough this season. He's struggled, especially in the second half of the season, running in the 5th place in qualifications right now. Still a couple of people need to put in some good fast laps here, potentially. Hutu needs to hope he doesn't fall back into that 4th row of the grid, like he did last time out when he was in the 5th row of the grid, because that is where the craziness will happen, and it is so difficult, the first couple of corners here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, well, not only are the first couple of corners here, but the track in general is very hard to pass on, so qualifying is going to be crucial here today for Greg Hutu if he wants to wrap up the championship here today.
So here comes Crew 2 then onto a lap. This will be his final lap of the day to run through your top 5. It's Enzo Benito. Qualifying time 1 minute 9.286. Martin Kroenke, he is 4/100ths of a second back, but he has done all of his qualifying times. Then you've got Alexei Yusiakola, who moved up into 3rd, displacing Borchi down into the 4th position. The guy we're looking at right now, Gregor Hutu, running himself in 5th place in qualifications. And the only guys we have remaining on track are Paul Ilbrink, Marta Piatella, Ilka Herpada, Yuhue, Fulvio Barazini, Alex Simpson, Chrissy Laurent, and a couple of others towards the rear of the field. But you have got to keep an eye out on Ilka Herpada because, Rachel, he has been really good these last couple of laps.
He has indeed, and he's had some good runs so far. Bit of luck, unluckiness though last week, but he definitely has potential to do something really good today, Will.
Into the Audi S then for Gregor Hutu. We'll go back along board with him as he works himself down into the Ari Line corner. Just one more corner, really good there on the power, coming out that final corner now, working it towards the line. Will Hutu be able to improve on his qualifying time of 109.4? Yeah, yes he does. He improves his time, but he does move up into 3rd place on the grid. So that's a good move there for Gregor Hutu, Rachel.
Yep, definitely. It's got him out of that midfield danger zone for now, though. But if he starts in 3rd position, where he's currently sitting, that might give him a different result to last week, Will.
And he's got his teammate, Daniel, just ahead of him on the inside of the front row is Paul Ilbrink, getting it very sideways on that run down into Vodafone. Running himself from P12 in the Radical Steel Series Simulator. He's got his teammate ahead of him, Daniel, and he's got his championship rival literally starting 1 place on the dirty side of the racetrack in P2. So for Hutu, now all he needs to do is just kind of stick there. He doesn't need to push too hard too early because we know how good Hutu is on the 2nd, 3rd of a fuel run under any circumstances. And arguably for Enzo Benito, he is now going to be that Eddie Irvine pick that Schumacher had back in the early 90s. Same way that Coulthard was for Hakkinen back in 98, 99. You've seen it before with Fisichella and Alonso. Benito's got to play the team game here today. Yes, we know there's no team orders in Team Redline, but he's going to have to see if he can help Hutu get that championship secured here.
It'll be interesting to see off the start, Will. Even though Martin Kroenke is going to be on the dirty side of the track potentially, we do know he's still good off the start. I mean, Benito needs to nail the start to make sure he's ahead of Kroenke to help his teammate come the end of this race.
As we're having a look on board, Dion Vergers right now running in the 17th position on the racetrack. We have got ourselves 2.5 minutes left on the play clock. Paul Ilbrink, Kazuki Omishima and Dion Vergers still scored on the racetrack. There you see your top 15 on the left-hand side of your screen. Interesting to note, the Koreans up into the 14th place. Hapana could only manage 13th, Rachel. Now, we know the Orion team do sometimes struggle in qualifying, but they will still be ones to look out for the race. Hapana and, of course, Vergers, who we're having a look at right now.
Yeah, Paul's definitely got that potential to move forwards, but as Daniel said, this is a tough track to pass at, and it will be more difficult than usual to survive in that midfield, as we saw last week. It will be, I think he can move up.
Dion Vergers moves himself up into 10th place then. He is about half a second back from Benito right now, so we keep an eye out on Kazuki Omishima. Got himself a lap to go. He's the last driver on the racetrack. It's been a season of really ups and really downs for Omishima, Daniel. He was amazing at Canada. He had a great strategy at Suzuka just 2 weeks ago as he comes down towards the start-finish line. Let's see very quickly if he'll improve his time. Nope, he's going to go on to one more lap. But Omishima, he's had some very highs, but he's had some unforced errors, which has really made his battle to stay in the top 25 a lot more difficult. We saw that again at Suzuka when, after getting himself into a net P2, he binned it down at Dega 2.
Yeah, it's been a very weird sort of season for Kazuki Omishima. I mean, as you said, he's had his highs and he's also had his lows. I mean, he could have potentially had 2 really good results at Canada and 2 weeks ago at Suzuka. I mean, he could have won at Canada, but then he touched the wall of champions with, I believe it was just over 2 laps to go from memory. But still settled for a second there. And then, I mean, last week at Suzuka, net P2, played the good strategy card yet again, but then binned it. I mean, sort of a weird season for Kazuki Omishima.
And he aborts his final lap, running wide there down at the LDS. That is going to be it for him. We've got Benjamin Lindsay on track for TNT Racing. He's our last driver out right now, but I don't think he'll get back to the line in time. Just trying to figure out where he is, and yeah, he's working himself towards this middle section of the racetrack. Just doing a side lap now, Benjamin Lindsay qualifying down in the 29th position overall, but looks as though he will be racing here today, Rachel.
Yeah, he will, and it'll be a good one to see him on the track. So it's going to be a tough race, I think. Like we said, very difficult track, but there's a lot of guys here I think have got real potential to make something interesting happen. Let's just hope it's cleaner than last week.
So then, just keeping an eye out on your Benjamin Lindsay as he works himself towards the start-finish line. This lap won't be counted. He will start down in the 29th position here for the 15th round of the championship. He will, however, work himself down towards the start-finish line, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifications complete. So then, ladies and gentlemen, to run through this, your starting grid for the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We'll get it up on your screen. It is going to be Enzo Benito starting this race here today on pole position. Another pole position for the Team Red Line camp, and another for Enzo Benito. Commander Sim Sports Martin Cronkey will line up in the second row on the grid, and then just behind him he will have Gregor Hutu, his championship rival, on the inside of row number 2. Alexei Usiakola makes it a finish, row 2 lockout, starting 4th for highest place driver for Glacier Racing here today. And then Andre Borch will line up in 5th, Mo Garfilo in 6th, Oli Picard in 7th, Blake Sturgis in 8th, Jeremy Bouteloup in 9th, and then Dion Burgess rounds out your top 10. To head over to page 2, it's Yormi Tamada who's starting this race in the 11th position. Then you've got Rocco Baroni in 12th, Paul Ilbrink in 13th. Then 3 finished drivers in a row of Ilka Pada, Yunus Nakurian, and Marty Piatella. You've then got Kazuki Omishima in P17, Isaac Price in 18th. You've got your second Glacier Racing car of Alexia Loma in 19th, and then Antoine Heglin representing Apex Racing UK in the 20th position. Then finally, onto our final page, you'll notice, Rachel, got ourselves a couple of pro drivers here again. Frank Levette the 4th, Justin Lindsay, and Benjamin Lindsay, all racing up here today, getting themselves some more valuable experience, because Pro Series of Road Racing is only about a month away now.
Yeah, it'll be good for them to get that little extra experience, and nice to see them coming over as well. But yeah, we're soon getting into that Pro Series, and it's going to be good.
So then, ladies and gentlemen, we will step aside for just one moment. Then we'll be back with continuing coverage and a look at the fast lap of Enzo Benito for this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live, powered by An1 Designs from Circuit Park Zandvoort. We will be right back. So then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage of this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Circuit Park Zandvoort. And it's going to be Enzo Benito claiming another pole position for the Team Redline camp. And Rachel, Benito's had such a difficult season. He's had some great races, but as team principal for Team Redline, Dom Duhan, alluded to 2 weeks ago, technical issues has been his downfall all season long.
Absolutely, Will. And as we saw last week, you know, he had a problem with the car and obviously couldn't finish the race. Another DNF. And it just seems to plague him in this series. He runs other racing series, he's fine, but he always ends up with DNFs in the World Grand Prix series. It's so unfortunate for him because he is fast. We know that. I mean, the lap today was flawless, but, you know, we can only hope that the car will run today.
Daniel, how important is it to have not only Gregor Hutu in that third place, but a Team Redline driver leading the field when those lights go out? Because we know how good Kroenke has been, and we know that charge has been difficult. You've got to almost imagine now that that's finally swung that momentum away from that Coanda Simsports team.
I mean, well, you gotta think if you were Gregor Hutu right now that you'd be a lot more confident coming into this race with your teammate on pole and you're starting off third. I mean, Hutu struggled with qualifying, particularly in the second half of the season. To be on the inside or the clean side of the track on the second row of the grid is really going to boost his confidence for being able to wrap the championship up here today.
Yeah, he can, and it could well happen. He's on the second row alongside Gregor Hutu. He's in place for it to happen, and potentially a better track position, shall we say, than Gregor going into turn one. But let's not also forget Mo Garfilo and Jake Sturgios, two guys who run very well last week, who are also in for a shout.
So then, let's get a look at the lap of Enzo Benito. And this is one that we were going to bring you a moment ago. We are going to bring you right now. Enzo Benito for Team Redline. This is his pole position lap then. As you see, him just working himself down in towards turn number one. We will work along board with him. There you see Enzo Benito as he works himself out of turn number one. These first couple of corners, incredibly difficult. Break it down into turn number three. Who can hold the spot? Then, Rachel, you are flat out all the way through 4, 5, and 6. Next time you're going to break, it's going to be Mulber Corner.
Yeah, awesome section of the track here, just flowing and fast. Really hard, really on the downforce here as he goes through this corner. Lots of downforce on that car, really pushing it down. Almost flat, but not quite. Some really tight ones now as we work down towards Vodafone. As the car just gets lots of change of direction. He's really moving around. Got to try and get that track position to open up the corners, but they're so short, the little straights. Makes it really hard, Will.
Yep, down into the LDS, turn number 10 and 11. You see using a lot of that curve. Car is settling nicely, however. Then you work yourselves out of 11, down into Kuhn box, and then your final corner, Arie Luyendyk box, which is of course named after Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk. Works himself towards start-finish line. Rachel, that is what you need to do to get pole position here at Zandvoort.
Absolutely, Will. And something I noticed on Enzo's lap, and we also saw on Martin Kroenke's lap, both of them taking the exit of Arie Luyendyk very, very tight to the right-hand side. They stay all the way over against the wall. Whereas, as we saw from Gregor Hutu's challenge to move up to third, he tracks out all the way to the left.
It's one of those things we did notice, and we have noticed from a couple of drivers this weekend, that there are various lines coming out of that final corner. Now, in race conditions, that is going to be slightly different, because at the end of the day, you have got to pay attention to the fact that you could have a car getting a much better run at that final corner. They could try and set up a pass into turn number one. And Daniel, you can pass into turn one here, but more importantly, you can run too wide for the entire corner. You just have to make sure you get that pass complete before you get yourself down into that very tricky turns 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, definitely will. I mean, the banking through turn one, because there is quite a bit of banking that you'll see through the first corner, and it does allow for some very good two-wide racing around the whole corner. I mean, you can easily hold your position around the outside as long as you get it. You can clear the car alongside you by turn 2. If you don't, and you end up going too wide through there, it can end really ugly.
And we haven't yet talked, Rachel, about the top 25 implications, and it's one of these things that normally the championship is close to, if not being wrapped up by now. Then we start paying our attention to the top 25. But this season, because of the fact that we've had such a comeback from Kroenke, that top 25 argument is almost been forgotten, and it is still pretty close down there. Now, in fact, these drivers in the top 20, actually, I believe, for next season, will keep their license. So it's currently Christian Laurent on the bubble, Kazuki Omishima on the outside. You've got Dion Verges 22nd, Yunus Takuri in 23rd, Paolo Muli in 24th, Fulvio Barazzini in 25th. Then you go back, you got some very good drivers, Jeremy Boosloop, Timo Evener, Mitchell de Jong, Marcus Caton, Alexia Loma, who are all potentially going to have to race this winter.
Exactly, and you got to race your way back into the championship, but they are good drivers. It's just one of those things. Every year there'll be someone who has more luck than somebody else, someone who has a better drive, they've got a better team setup, just they're in a better place in their head. And it doesn't make them any worse as drivers, it's just somebody else's time. And, it might be a good thing for them to get out and race into another series and get their way back in and give them some different momentum, not just more, but a different headspace for them.
I think that, having a look at the points, Kazuki Omishima 140 points, Christian Laurent 150 points, Robin Friscops 160 points. Friscops currently is safe. Laurent's on the bubble, Omishima at the moment is on the outside looking in. How much, Rachel, is that crash at Denga 2 weeks ago going to be haunting him if he doesn't make the top 20?
If he hasn't stopped thinking about it already, I'll be surprised, Will. He was so in position for an amazing finish. It would have been second, it would have been on the podium, potentially safe in terms of the top 20, and that would have been him worry-free. Now he's got 2 races to try and get himself back in the points, and will he? I think if he doesn't get in, it's going to haunt him forever. That's going to be that one moment that changed it for him.
Because, Daniel, back at Canada, he only lost 1 position. Yes, he lost to W. Yes, he lost the chance to beat Hutu. But he only lost 10 points there. I think that moment, he lost potentially 40 points at Suzuka, his home track, a great drive. And this is some of the, without trying to complain or bash Running Racing, because they've done a great job as a small team this season, that, I think, has been their downfall. Yuhu Abe's had some issues, but he's at 9th in the championship. He's gone in it all together. I think what we always forget here is that Omishima is a rookie into the series. Are we putting too much pressure on him?
Well, I mean, you might think so, Will. I mean, considering he is a rookie, he has had some very impressive drives throughout the year, but he hasn't really completed them as such. I mean, again, I'll mention Canada and last week at Suzuka. I mean, very impressive drives, but he hasn't been able to finish the job as such.
And Rachel, there's 2 other people before we go to commercial, get ourselves ready for the race, who I want to bring into discussion here. Timo Evener and Jeremy Boosloop. We know how good Jeremy Boosloop is, and that thing about the Radical Steel Series team, I think they've really been affected by Glacier Racing really coming to the fold and getting a lot of those top 5 and mid top 10 points that the Radicals team was so used to, because Boosloop is better than a 26th place driver. Also worth mentioning, Timo Evener. Evener is out of the chance to get himself re-qualified for WCS. So really, you've got, in my opinion, Jeremy Boosloop and potentially Fulvio Barazzini, who again, last year had a great season, who are really now going to have to charge, and that means they're going to have to be crazy on strategy in the same way Omishima was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's going to take something really special from them today to make a difference, but it all comes down to points. Sometimes you do, half the time you don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to step aside and get ourselves ready for this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We hope you have enjoyed our qualifying and pre-race coverage. We'll be back in just a couple of moments' time with what could be the race that determines a champion, or a race that potentially blows that argument wide open. There is so much to talk about. Stick with us here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. We'll be back in just a couple of moments' time.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down to super stretch going into turn 2. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can lift it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you
Brad
love it.
Davies, here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
Just 2 rounds to go in the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and we welcome you to exclusively live coverage here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Will Vincent, along with Rachel Whiteford, yes, she is a girl, and Daniel Benefield, yes, he's from Australia, as we tick down the clock to the lights going out to start this penultimate round of the championship. And to run through your starting grid, it is going to be Enzo Benito on pole position here today, not Jake Sturgis as you see. It is indeed going to be Enzo Benito on pole position, Martin Kroenke lining up alongside him. Gregor Hutu and Alexei Usiakola share the second row of the grid, with Andre Porcher and Mo Garfilo on the third row. Oli Picala and Jake Sturgis in the fourth row of the grid, with then Jeremy Boutaloop and Dion Burgess in row number 5. As we bring you up the rest of qualification time, Rachel, there is a lot on the line here today.
There's a lot of guys, there's a lot to gain, and only really 2 or 3 with a lot to lose. So it's going to be a bit of a scrum today, I think. The guys showed they're not up against really pushing it in the early laps last week, and I think that we're going to see some tough, exciting racing here today, Will. We're
going to see some fascinating racing. And just before we went to commercial, I had a thought, and ever since you had Hugo Luis retire from the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, it's been Martin Kroenke who's led that team, Daniel, and he's taken a never say die attitude. Now, I'm a college football fan, and I'm an Auburn Tigers fan, and I remember 2 last moment plays. One, what we like to call the Miracle at O'Hare, and then that final moment called Kick Bama Kick, where I learned you never say never. Kroenke is still in that state, but he has still got to win the next 2 races. He didn't even win a race until a month ago.
Yes, well, Kroenke, it has really changed the championship over the last month. I mean, he's won the last 2 races. It seems to be ever since Coanda Motorsport started, which was sort of coincidentally at the same time as Hugo Luis's retirement. Martin Kroenke has dominated the series in general. I mean, it may be weird, but Coanda Motorsport actually has not lost a race yet, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, they've got a 2-0 record, which is, funnily enough, Rachel, something that BAR wanted to do back when they came into Formula 1 back in 1999 and failed miserably. But Coanda Motorsport, that is one of those things. They haven't yet lost a race.
Yeah, they're doing really, really well, Will. They seem to just have, like you say, that never say die attitude. It's everything to gain. Again, nothing to lose. These guys have the world at their feet, and they're going for it, and they're going to play football with the world, because they've just got the talent, they've got that's on and off the track, and there's the momentum. It always comes back to momentum. They have got that momentum, and it's so easy to do well when you have it. It's so easy to do well when you have that confidence from the momentum, and it gives you that potential. I mean, look at, we talk about drivers who came in, didn't do anything, then suddenly started winning. It happens in the real world. It happens to other people, and it's all to do with that momentum. Once you just start to get it going, it comes easier and easier, and I think he's in a really good place right now for the championship.
This guy, though, by close of play today, could become a 4-time champion. And I remember back this time last year, Rachel, we were debating whether or not Gregor Hutu and Ray Alfala would both be 3-time champions. Alfala lost out last year in some pretty dramatic fashion the last couple of races of the season. But then Hutu won his championship. He's looking to make it 4 in a row again. Ray Alfala, of course, in the NASCAR Peak Country Series, powered by iRacing.com. He's got himself one more race to try and get the job done. Hutu could be a 4-time champion. Alfala could be a 2-time champion still. We could be in a circumstance by the end of today that we will argue the question, is Hutu the greatest ever?
It's a very tough question, but one that everyone seems to know the answer to already. But I think if we want to look at it that way, he's already one of the greatest sim racers. Greatest ever? Yeah, he could be. It's certainly no better person deserving of it.
Then, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to one more time run through your starting grid. For those of you who may have missed it, it is going to be, there are your top 4 drivers. Team Redlines, Enzo Benito inside of the front row. Martin Kroenke for Coanda Motorsport on the outside of the front row. Gregor Hutu on the inside of row number 2 for Team Redline. And then Glacier Racing's Alexei Usiakola lined up in the 4th position outside of row number 2. There are some big stories here. If Kroenke finishes ahead of Hutu, then the championship will go down to the final round, something we've not seen since 2011. In fact, I'm not even sure whether we've actually had it come down to the final round or not. We'll get our statisticians on that one. But if Hutu finishes ahead of Kroenke, it is all over. Hutu is a 4-time champion. Andre Borgia in 5th, Mo Garfido in 6th, Oli Picard in 7th, Jack Sturgis in 8th, Bootloop in 9th, Dion Burgess in 10th. That is your grid. Rachel, we're about to head ourselves down for what will once again be an enthralling battle. Who's your pick for the race?
I'm going to have to be controversial here and say Kroenke.
Daniel?
Oh, I guess I reckon it's gonna all depend on the start. If Benito gets a good start, I reckon it's gonna be a red line car. I won't say which one, but if Kroenke gets the lead off Benito off the start, I reckon Kroenke, I should say, will want to run away with the race.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Daniel, are you suggesting there could be some sort of Schumacher-Barrichello antics going on with Red Line Racing?
No, I'm just going to say a Team Redline driver could win if Benito gets the lead off the start.
Controversy before the start of the race. That is what we love. Benito, there you see him on the grid, waiting for Kroenke to take his place as we get closer and closer to those lights going on top of the iRacing.com gantry to get this race in action. There you see up above, there you see those lights about to go on top of the iRacing.com gantry. Ladies and gentlemen, 72 laps of racing here from Circuit Park Zandvoort, potentially determine the championship, will start right now. And a really good start there by Benito, but still you can see that Kroenke gets himself a good run as they all swarm down into turn number 1 for the first time. Hutu looking around the outside of Kroenke. This could be pivotal for the championship, but Kroenke holds on to that inside line. They'll work themselves down into turn number 4 for the first time. It's Benito, then it's Kroenke, then it is Hutu, and then we've got ourselves Borgia up into P4, and it's Alexei Yusiakona down into P5. Everyone is through those first couple of corners without real incident, Rachel.
Yep, and that's a great start there for Benito, but the biggest thing so far is Gregor Hutu survived the first couple of corners, which means he's probably got a very good chance of winning.
There you see Hutu running himself in that 3rd position. There you see the gap, the top 3 drivers as it stands right now, as we work ourselves on board with Gregor Hutu, working themselves out of Vodafone Corner now, down towards the Audi S. 71 laps of racing today. It's going to be a long, hard, arduous race. They come down into the Audi S for the first time. But Enzo Benito, he did what he needed to do, Daniel. Coming out of that first corner, he led the race. And now Martin Kroenke is in what I'd like to call a red line sandwich.
Martin Kroenke definitely is in a red line sandwich as Benito goes to the right, then to the left to try and break the slipstream of Martin Kroenke. Now it's going to be interesting to see the fuel levels already. I know it's lap 2 of the race, but we've got to start talking strategy. Is Kroenke going to stay out later than Benito and try and jump him in stops?
Well, this is a situation, Rachel. We could have 1, 2, maybe even 3 stops here. And if you are in the red line camp, you must be thinking now, we have got to split our strategies to ensure that at least one of our drivers beats Kroenke, because you've got another kind of sim sports driver running in the 4th position. There you see him right on board, Andre Borgia. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that you don't have any surprises.
Exactly. It'll come down to the team strategies. It'll come down to who can look after these tyres for the long run. But it's just so open. You can't even tell at this time. Although I will just want to point out though, Rocco Barone has had a spin on the run down to the Audi S's, but he's recovered it.
There you see Rocco Barone. We'll see whether we can get that one up on your screen. In fact, that was a lap ago, so we won't be able to do so at the moment. But here is Rocco Barone in that huge Cadillac car, now running in the 25th position after running in 11th at some point in this race. So that is not what Rocco Barone would have wanted to have happened to him. As we'll ride along board, we'll see if there's any damage to his car as he comes out the final corner in the Movano X-Team car. No damage, but now he is remarkably out of position, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a bit unlucky for Rocco Barone there. I wonder if he can change his strategy up a bit to hopefully get him up a little higher, but not the way he wants to start the second last race of the year.
running on board now with Ilka Hapala running himself in the 15th position on the racetrack. Now, Rachel, Hapala was so good 2 weeks ago, but right now he's stuck behind Jonas the Korean in the battle for 14th position on the racetrack. If you are on an alternate strategy, you need to be making passes now. Hapala, he might have to be thinking about making some big dives down to the inside as they come down into the LDS, which is a much more treacherous corner than anyone ever gives it credit for.
Absolutely. Now he's going to have to get moving right now if he wants to make something happen. And with all these cars around him, he's in a perfect place to do it. I mean, they're all within maybe 5 or 6 cars within a second of him. It's prime time. It's go time.
We've got Isaac Price, almost a 3-wide situation there. Price, I believe, got himself a penalty. We'll see if we can get that one up on your screen to figure out what happened. But Isaac Price is falling down our timing and scoring screens. Let's have a look then as we ride along board with Isaac Price, as he was running right behind Ilka Hapala. And then I think he just cut the Audi S. Now, these drivers have got to be incredibly careful with that here today, because this is an arduous race, Rachel. You cut the curb, not only do you lose position, you also then have to slow that car down and allow others to basically make sure that you don't gain any time.
Yeah, and the race control telling him to give those places back. That is not what he wants. But yeah, again, it kills momentum, stops you from keeping that rhythm up, and it's really hurt him.
We'll get one more look at that. As I say, down they come into the Audi S, and there's Martin Piatella right behind him, clipping the curb on the inside, giving himself that slow down penalty. You see him moving himself to the left-hand side of the racetrack to allow all these cars to swarm past. He almost had a secondary impact there, actually, with Alexia Loma, as we go back to our live pictures. Out front, however, it is Enzo Benito now a 1.7-second advantage over Martin Kroenke. Kroenke in turn 1.4-second gap, Daniel, over Gregor Houtu.
Yeah, I wonder if Benito's running just a little bit lower on fuel than Kroenke at the moment. He seems to be streaking away relatively quickly. I mean, he's pulled out 1.7-second lead in the first 4 laps, but the person I want to focus on out of our top 3 at the moment is Gregor Houtu. He's got 1.4 seconds behind championship rival Martin Kroenke, 3.1 seconds behind his teammate. I wonder if he's going to try the one-stop here today, Gregor Houtu.
We'll keep an eye as we're riding on board with Houtu. This is such a fascinating section of the racetrack, Rachel, that they're working themselves into. It is fast, and you can lose or gain a lot of time very quickly here.
Definitely, definitely. It's fast, it's twisty, the car's on the edge all the time. And for someone like Houtu, and I think this is, this is the worst thing you can give the guy is clean air, which he now has. But this is a sort of track, and section of track, where he can really benefit from just saving that car.
Having a look from the rear, Kazuki Yamashima battling himself right now in that 13th position on the racetrack. You've got Jonas Korean behind him, and then Ilka Hapala right behind as they work themselves down into that Audi S once again. Now, Omishima has struggled here today. We talked about his struggles a little bit earlier on. He needs a good finish, however, as Jonas Korean is right behind him. There you see the gap between himself and Ilka Hapala as we now ride along board with Jonas Korean in that Team Radicals car. He will go down to the inside, and he's going to try and get that pass complete over Omishima down into turn number 1, but Omishima holds it nicely on that outside line, and Omishima makes it stick on that outside line. Great job by him there, Rachel.
Yeah, definitely difficult place to pass, but just making it stay out there, that's great driving. Well,
let's get ourselves a replay of that, because that shows just how you can make a defensive pass, keep a defensive position on that outside line. Don't forget that turn number 1 is banked. As the cars come down towards turn number 1, there you see the Korean going down to the inside. There you see the battle, the 2 wide battles. They work themselves through turn number 1. Omishima, there's a little bit of a wiggle actually in the centre of the corner from the Korean. That might have helped Omishima a little bit, but both these drivers running very close together on the racetrack. And of course, what this is doing is it's slowing down some drivers behind, like Ilka Hapala, like Alexia Loma, Daniel, who are really trying to see if they can get themselves some clean air. All these drivers battling on a very narrow racetrack doesn't make that easy.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for one of these guys to make contact. Like, Jonas Korean seems to be fighting very aggressively against Kazuki Omishima at the moment. I wonder if Korean's just not happy behind Omishima as he comes to the inside again. Take 2, pass into turn 1. Let's see if he gets it done. Omishima holds on the outside again. They're still side by side. This is not going to end well. They're going to go side by side through 3. Omishima holds it. They're still side by side 3-3.
And now Hapala.
Omishima's cleared him. I think Omishima's got the position. They got very close there.
You don't want to go too wide.
3, 4.
Yeah, they're too wide, too deep. They are too wide, too deep through there as Alomo's trying around the outside, but Nakurian gets the job done over Omishima. That was incredible stuff. We'll get ourselves a replay of that. We saw a part of it on board with Ilka Hapala. He actually lost out in the end, but this is that battle once again.
Omishima's around.
We'll come back to that one in a moment because we've got our replay up. This is from earlier on. So Omishima has spun himself around. Another incident for Kazuki Omishima, but that is that amazing two-wide battle that lasted the first 5 corners of the racetrack. Now, we'll go on board with Nunes Nakurian because this is where things get mighty close. You'll see just there, he finally gets himself clear past Omishima, and that is Nunes Nakurian moving himself up 1 position. But we will then go back to have a look to see what happened to Kazuki Omishima, because just after that we have an incident with Kazuki Omishima. He's fallen down the timing and scoring standings. You see him now down in P27, and Omishima, another unforced error. There you see it, and just cars swarming to avoid him, Rachel.
Yeah, really bad place to have that happen to him. And we had also, just after this, a little accident with Paolo Muia, and I believe he makes contact with the... I'm trying to work out which car this is, guys.
We'll come back to that one in a moment. We're just getting another replay there of Omishima and all those cars just spearing around him, trying to find... He did get a bit of contact as well in that number 43 running racing car, and he is currently on pit road. He's coming back out onto the racetrack. Polo Mulia, to give you confirmation, he is also now down at the rear of the field as Omishima back out onto the racetrack. Paulo Mulia, there you see him up on your screen. He has had an incident in that team racing on 3 car. And Mulia is one of those drivers hoping to try and remain in the top 20 for next season. Mulia's chances not looking good at all now, Rachel.
No, it's not. I've just found that incident. It was Alex Simpson. Mulia just dive bombs down towards the start of the RDSs, taps the back of Alex Simpson and loses it completely. I think he even makes contact with Christian Lorente.
Wow. Right now, working ourselves on board with Martin Conke. This is the gap to the race lead. It is 2.8 seconds. As we're working ourselves here with 63 laps remaining from Circuit Park Zandvoort. And Kroenke, he's got that 3-second gap right now, but importantly, he's got himself now a 2-second cushion, Daniel, to Hutu behind him. And this is what Kroenke will need. He's not overworking his tyres. He's doing what we proverbially like to call hot lapping, just making sure he hits his marks every single lap.
Yeah, sure is. I wonder actually if Kroenke and Hutu are on the same strategy, and Benito, is trying the 2-stop strategy. Because that's what it seems to be. Is this lap he extends his lead by another 0.4 of a second out to 3.2 between Benito and Kroenke now, and maintaining at 2 seconds between Kroenke and Hutu at the end of lap 9 as they go into lap 10 now.
Yeah, there you can see the ticker running across the top of the screen. Keep an eye out for your favourite driver. Benito leads right now for Martin Kroenke. Hutu in 3rd position. Borja in 4th. Yakola rounds out your top 5. Let's check in on the battle developing between Jeremy Boutaloop and Oli Picana. We talked about this, Rachel, just before we came to our race coverage. Boutaloop needs 2 top 10 finishes, guaranteed, if he's going to remain in the top 20 for next season. Boutaloop has a lot of work to do, but he's in a good position right now, just about half a second behind Oli Picala.
Well, yeah, he's in the top 10 now, and whether he'll stay there or not, we can't quite tell yet, but he's got the car to do it, and yeah, if he makes it 2 in a row, he can stay, but he's got to stay there. 9th is precarious, well.
It is, as we're having a look from the rear of Oli Picala. Yes.
Also, I wouldn't be surprised if Boutaloop gets by Picala a little easier than he normally would. Picala's fighting an issue. He doesn't have any force feedback in his wheel at the moment, so a little minor issue that Oli Picala is having to fight right now.
It's not the first time this has happened to Oli Picala as well. So 2 races this season, some power steering force feedback issues for Oli Picala as he comes down into turn number 1 again. There you see the gap. It is 0.7 of a second between himself and Jeremy Boutaloop. Picala is running out of position right now in that 8th spot. He's lost 1 position since the lights went out to start this race. So a tough day ahead for Glaciers Racing, Oli Picala. Having a look up and down the field, at the rear of the field, you've got Rocco Baroni trying to make a charge right now on Antoine Hegel. These guys are battling for P21 on the racetrack. There you'll see he's right on board with Rocco Baroni in that Movado X-Team car. He's actually lost 10 positions since the start of this race. And Rachel, that is all because of that moment he had in the early going.
Absolutely. just put his foot wrong next in that corner, and round it goes like a roundabout. Now, unfortunate for him, and he seems to be cursing that move for the entire race, but he's getting up some traffic now, so potentially could have a few spots back.
Yeah, it was right back along board. This will be a short little run down to the Audi S. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough to try and make that pass on Antoine Hegelin. This time, he almost tries it. Decides discretion is the better part of valor. They'll work themselves out of the Audi S, but this is your battle that you have going on right now. For P21, 22 on the racetrack, of course, just ahead of them, you've got Frank Levesque, the fourth, running themselves as a pro driver. Let's have a look then from the rear. Will Rocco Baroni try and make a pass down into turn number 1? It looks like this should be an easy pass down to the inside. Tries Baroni, not quite close enough. He will stay behind for the time being. A little bit further up the field, you've got yourselves Ilka Hapala and Alexia Loma. They are batting for P13 on the racetrack right now as we work on board with Ilka Hapala. Now, Daniel, ever since that train, that gaggle of cars from the Kurian and Omishima, they stopped fighting a little bit early on. It is interesting to note that Kurian has had an incident on the racetrack outside of our screens. He's fallen down to P17. Apala and Loma now have some clean air. They're not as close as they were earlier.
Yeah, I think Kazuki Omishima was holding up a bit of a train of cars, becoming a bit of a freight train early on in the race until that 2x2 action that we saw earlier in the race. That was absolutely awesome driving by everyone involved. But it seems to be Hapala doesn't quite have the pace for Aloma yet, and Aloma needs a good result. I mean, he's P13 at the moment. In reality, though, he needs the top 10 to make the top 25 in the championship.
Yeah, so we're now having a look at Mo Garfino, Oli Picalo, Jeremy Boothflip. Don't forget, Picalo has got some issues to his car. Philo running himself in 7th position, Picalo in 8th, Jeremy Boothflip in the 9th position. Those three drivers are separated by a maximum of 1 second blanket between them, as we now have a look on board with Oli Picalo in that number 27 car. That is the battle that he has going on ahead of him. We'll cycle that camera to the rear. That is what he's dealing with from behind. A very fast Jeremy Boothflip, putting pressure on him, Rachel, but Boothflip actually made a bit of a mistake there. A little bit hot coming down into the corner. That actually then compromises his exit for the next 2 corners, moves the opportunity to make a move down into the Audi S.
Yeah, totally. It's very easy to get focused on the gearbox of that car in front of you. You change your braking positions, you change your turning points. It's not as easy to hot lap, and you've got a hot lap to be able to get into the right position to make a pass. Like coming here out of the final corner is the ideal place. You want to be right on their gearbox so you can use that draft, use that overspeed down the straight. But, you know, he's made the mistakes and he's dropped back too much, and that's currently what's holding him back.
And there you see that battle with Hapala. We'll keep an eye out on him because he looks a little bit closer. Not quite close enough, though, to make a pass down in towards turn number 1. Ilka Hapala remains in that 14th position for the time being. So, to run through your top 10 then, it is this guy who leads the way, already coming up to a little bit of traffic, Enzo Benito. He now has himself a 4.3 second advantage on the racetrack over Martin Cronquet. And this comes back to what we were saying earlier, Daniel. Technical issues have plagued Benito all season long. The last thing that he wants now is for that to strike again.
Yeah, Benito does not need it right now. I mean, he's pulled out a good margin over Cronquet and his teammate Gregor Hutu, who's actually made a little bit of inroads onto Cronquet the last couple of laps. It's down to 1.8 last time by. We'll get an update as they come across the line this time by. But Benito's so far absolutely controlled the race, so he doesn't need any issues right now to affect his races. Hutu as well reduced the gap to 1.7 seconds now between himself and Cronquet.
Yeah, and Hutu is coming there. You can see the gap between them is now just 1.8 seconds as it stands on the racetrack. Now, Hutu's last lap was a 1:11.001, a 1:11.133 for Martin Cronquet. You know what this is, Rachel? It is the typical Gregor Hutu, I'm now into the middle of a fuel run moment.
Exactly. Gregor Hutu, he picks that car up Flintstone style and he runs along the circuit. Those tyres don't get used in the slightest, and he's an absolute master of looking after his car. You know, he just keeps that car moving. He's not as quick off the grid, yeah, and we've seen today he did fall back a bit, but now reeling him back in, using that rubber he's saved up. You know, he's the lone shark of tyre wear.
And don't forget, if Hutu finishes ahead of Cronquet, he is the champion. We are down to 2 championship protagonists in this year's championship. They came in Gregor Hutu was 54 points ahead of Martin Kroenke. As you see, Kroenke just working himself around a little bit of traffic there. That is Christian Lorente, who has now scored 1 lap down. Not the day that Lorente would have wanted to have had happen to him, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, a bit unlucky there, getting caught up in someone else's accident in the Audi S's when Paulo Emilia spun around after he was squeezed by Alex Simpson. Really unlucky for Lorente. I mean, he's just got to salvage something now. I mean, he is a pro driver, so he does have the pro series to really get into this series. This, for him, is really just practice and experience now.
Let's check in with your battles towards the rear of the top 10 because it's getting a little bit more interesting. Here is Ollie Picard. He's actually now been able to get himself up about a 1 second advantage over Jeremy Boothwood. It's come back down actually recently, but there you'll see Ollie Picard running himself in that 8th position in the Glacier Racing car, and then just behind you've got Jeremy Boothwood running in that 9th position. But you've got Paul Wilbrink, Jeremy Boothwood's teammate, running in 10th. Then at 11th, you've got Yorni Tamala. We've got ourselves a bit of a train going on because you've then got Dion Vergers running in that 12th position for your Iron Racing Team car. So now we've got 5 drivers separated by 5 seconds, Rachel.
Yeah, and this is where the action happens. Well, they're all nice and packed up, all running in dirty air, but it slows them all down. But of course, they're all desperate to get to that front of that little train and try and make an escape. So I think we should look for some exciting action happening very soon.
As we ride on board with Yorni Tamala for INX Racing. We do apologise for saying he was a Coanda SimSports driver last week. He is an INX Racing driver as he worked himself out of 4, working himself up the hill once again. Daniel, there's your competition ahead of you, and this is when that frustration can really kick in, and this is where you've got to think patiently. You can see all of these cars ahead of them. You can see them, but you can't catch them. But you know that this is a long race. Pit stops will be aplenty here. Do you come in early, change up your strategy? Do you just try and hope that you can save a bit of your tyres to make a move later on in the run? What would you do if you're Yorni Tamala right now?
Well, especially around Zandvoort, a very tight and tricky track and a very hard track to pass on. You'd hope that you've actually got a bit more fuel than the cars ahead, so sort of do a bit of a Gregor Hutu in a way and stay out an extra lap or two and hope you jump up the train a bit through the first lot of pit stops.
And there you see Yorni Tamala walking himself past the start-finish line once again. Currently running in that 11th position, up to 191 miles an hour as he comes down in towards turn number 1. So that is how it is out there, but the guy we haven't yet talked about much is Enzo Benito. And his last lap was a 1 minute 10.587. His best lap, so that was his best lap. His last lap, 1 minute 10.642. You compare that to Kroenke and Hutu, he's at least 2 tenths of a second faster lap on lap. He's now got that gap up to 4.7 seconds over Martin Kroenke. This all does say, Rachel, that he is on a slightly... Oh, we got a car spun around there, and that is Marcus Caton. There you'll see Marcus Caton just having himself a little spin on the racetrack, Rachel.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that one yet, well, but I'll have a look. But yes, one of the problems with being a leader is you don't get much airtime, and Enzo Benito's been doing a stealthy little job. The lap times he's doing are indicative of a different fuel strategy. Obviously, Martin Kroenke, Gregor Hutu, we think, are trying to go for a one-stop, but Enzo has got to be going for another stop. He looks committed. The speed difference is so massive that it's got to be down to the decision of the strategy, and, you know, he will pull away, but will he pull away enough?
And there you see the spin then from Marcus Caton down in 26th position in that Alienators car. You will notice that was actually Enzo Benito who just came past him. Marcus Caton brings his car back out onto the racetrack. No further issues, just a bit of a bruised ego for the time being. Kroenke, by the way, now has a 3-second advantage over Gregor Hutu in that number 1 Team Redline car. So, whilst earlier on, Daniel, it was Hutu closing into Kroenke, Kroenke has responded and actually put another second on that battle for P2.
At the moment, this battle between our two championship combatants seems to be like a game of tennis, that one stage Hutu's faster than Kroenke's faster. It seems to be going back and forth between the two. So it'll be interesting to see exactly who's got more fuel on and exactly who pits first as we work our way into the pit stops.
Yeah, and running on board with Gregor Hutu there in that #1 Team Redline car. Talk about pit stops, only drivers to make a stop so far. Christian Duran, Kazuki Omishima and Paolo Mulia. And it is basically these drivers are just ones that's had issues at some point in this race, as we remain on board with Gregor Hutu just for a couple more corners. And again, we are into that stage of the race where typically that red line car has been strong, but one of those things that has changed these last couple of races, and I did notice it at Suzuka, was the fact that Coanda Simsport's car does look a lot better in that middle stage of a run. Now, historically, they were faster at the start of a run, lost a little bit as that run went on, Rachel, but all of a sudden, I think that these two teams are incredibly even.
That they are, Will. I mean, they've had some bad performances, some good ones, but they both seem to be managing to stay about neck and neck, and it's going to be tough when it comes down to the final round.
Down at the rear of the field, you got a very close battle with Rocco Baroni. We were right along board with him. Just ahead is Frank Levette the fourth, of course, another pro driver, as he's not going to try down the inside here, is he? Yes, he is. Rocco Baroni thinks about it. That is one place you never want to make a pass, Daniel.
Yeah, no, definitely not somewhere you want to go side by side unless you want to have a massive accident and potentially kill yourself. A very eager Rocco Baroni there. I mean, he is charging through the field. He probably is a little frustrated after his spin on lap 1. So he's trying to get as many positions as he can, but he can't be too aggressive, or else A, he'll get a penalty, and B, have another accident.
As you can see, a good run there for Baroni. Yes, Rachel?
Sorry, speaking of accidents, Kazuki Omishima, unfortunately for the second week in a row, will be a DNF.
And that
as his car has been retired.
Huge implications there for Omishima and his chance to remain in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, not have to run in the Pro Series road racing. Baroni doesn't get that move done over the Vector 4th. In fact, this is that stage of the racetrack where Baroni is faster. He just doesn't know a way past the Vector right now. But that's a huge implications for Omishima. Of course, we have got to talk about that top 20, Rachel. And for Omishima, yes, he has dropped weeks, but this is not going well for him. That race at Kota in 2 weeks' time, he's going to have to hope that he has got a car able to be on the podium.
It's going to require a podium for him to stay in. He just didn't need this. I don't know what happened to his car, but they basically they retired it. It pulled off the circuit, and Marshall's person is gone. But no, he did look like he was having some wobbles with his tyres and sliding. I just think the car is not suiting him at the moment.
Well,
and unless he gets into that space.
He did get contact when he spun that car around. He made contact, I believe, with Lorente.
Oh, Baroni. Out of the RDS's, Baroni gets a great big wobble on, but manages to get it back and recover.
And he's mighty close for Harry Leindijk as well. In fact, he's going to have to time that move perfectly, because here he comes. He's going to be on the outside as they work themselves down in towards turn number 1. You can see side-by-side racing. We know that you can make him pass, stick on the outside here, but Baroni is battling. This is going to be for P22 on the racetrack. Baroni is able to hold on there over Alex Simpson. So after an incredibly big wiggle, Rocco Baroni is a very lucky person, because he's had a race that I think he wants to forget right now, Rachel.
That he does, but for a race he's wanting to forget, he's certainly making some memorable moves.
So let's get ourselves a replay then. This is coming down into the LDSs. This is that moment that happened for him. Coming out of the corner, you see that big wiggle, almost spinning him down into that tyre barrier. We've seen a couple of incidents there already. We'll get one more look of that one. And this is Rocco Baroni, whose day he's been on our coverage quite a bit here, but probably for all of the wrong reasons, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Baroni was, in a way, lucky to keep his position over Alex Simpson there, as he has another bit of a wiggle, and Simpson had a wiggle as well there coming out of the RDSs. But yeah, Baroni not having the race he wants, especially if he wants to get a decent position and a decent end to this season in preparation for next year.
Running along board once again with Jeremy Bootsloop running himself in that 9th position, still trying to reel in Ollie Picala. And I think the issue for Bootsloop is right now, he's as fast, if not faster, than Picala, who of course does have his issues, Rachel, just can't find a way past him. And this is historically a very high downforce track, because you need that downforce with that incredibly fast section of the racetrack through turns number 5 down into 8. And that means that you haven't then got the overall pace that you need to be able to line someone up into turn 1. We've seen a couple of attempts at passes, but not many here today. Rachel? we have just lost Rachel. We'll get her back in just one moment's time. So continues to ride along board with Jeremy Bootsloop. I say he remains in that 9th place on the racetrack for the time being. Just behind there, you'll see Yoni Samada. Of course, he is trying to battle up through the field as well, running in that 11th place, which is a net loss of absolutely nothing. He fell back in the early going, now running himself in that 11th position on the racetrack. One of the battles that we have got going on right now. And then just towards the rear a little bit more, there you can see Ilka Hapala trying to close down Alexi Loma in that battle for the 13th position, Rachel.
Yes, he is, and sorry about that one. Technical difficulties in the booth here, folks. Yeah, no, the downforce on this track, big factor. Obviously, it limits the top end speed of the car, and these guys, when they get into that dirty air, it's disturbing that downforce, which is getting them loose in the corners, and we've seen that from several drivers so far. You just can't
I'm going to interrupt
close.
you. Benito's on pit road. Benito is on pit road making his first stop of the day. So we thought Benito was late. The answer was he is indeed. There you can see him onto pit road. First stop of the day for Enzo Benito. He will get himself some fresh boots. And it looks as though he is clearly on a 2-stop strategy. Back out onto the racetrack he comes. And he will be swarmed in a pack there. Now, I'm not sure. I think he might get into a bit of trouble with that pit exit there, Rachel.
I think he could well, because he's now in the heart of the battle. If anyone makes a mistake ahead of him, he's screwed. Whereas before he had lots of clean air and lots of time to make decisions, now he's in the thick of it, with guys fighting for their positions. They're not fighting him, of course, but that's a short run car, and these guys are running longer stints. Who knows what could happen?
And he's got Paul Ilbrink right up behind him. And of course, at this stage of the race, Ilbrink will be faster than Benito because of the fact that he's got less fuel on board. Some of the other guys got a lot more fuel on board. In fact, Benito has. So Ilbrink, you will notice a top speed difference. And those first couple of corners, Daniel, Ilbrink almost made that pass over Benito. Now, this is really bad track placement because he's in that dirty air. He's got fast cars right behind him. You'd almost have thought he needed to try and push out another half-a-second gap, and he must have run that tank right to the fumes to try and avoid this situation that's now happened.
He'd have to, simply the engineers at Team Redline would not let him do this without running the tank till it was essentially empty, so I'm not sure if Benito's strategy is going to work today. Will, the 2-stop strategy seems to be going against him at the moment.
And there you can see the gap between Benito and Ilbrink. It is now about 0.5 of a second on the racetrack. So the race leader is 22 seconds. So that's about what you need to make a pit stop here. Martin Kroenke is now classified as your race leader. So pit stops have commenced. We've got Alexi Loma coming out of pit road there. 9.2 second stop for him in the Glacier Racing car. Back out onto the racetrack. Just a handful of drivers making scheduled pit stops on this alternate 2-stop strategy. But Rachel, there's only really one person that did it last time out, and that person ended up almost with a 2nd place finish.
They did indeed.
Oh, Kroenke's in. Sorry, Kroenke is onto pit road, so I will completely turn you off, but you may now talk again.
No, it made it really work last time, but of course he's out of the race again. But fuel strategy here could be a big factor. But again, obviously track placement's vital. With cars spreading out over the lap, you end up with people everywhere, and the disadvantage is you end up twice in 2 lots of bad track position rather than once. So 1 stop could well be the safer option. 9-second
stop there for Martin Kroenke. There you see Mo Garfilo coming onto pit road, and he's making his stop. And it's going to be about a 9-second stop for him. We just see another car come out of the track. That was Andre Borgia. He makes a 9-second stop and is out and away. 9.5 second stop there from Mo Garfilo. So a couple of other people also on what I'm going to call the halfway house here, potentially with a little bit of wiggle room if they need to in this event. But here is Gregor Hutu. Potentially he might come into pit road this time by. Let's ride along board then with Gregor Hutu as he works himself now through Aaron Leindijk for the, one more time. 45 laps to go. Does he make that dart onto pit road? No, he doesn't. Gregor Hutu stays out. Now this is going to really make this race interesting, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know roughly staying out 1 lap later on in the pit stops gives you about 2 seconds margin, and he was about 2 seconds behind Kroenke when Kroenke pitted. So is this enough to get Gregor Hutu ahead of Kroenke once the pit stops are done?
So Hutu is leading. Pit stops are a very busy place right now, so we'll go and have a look at some of them that are going on because you've got Paul Ilbrink on pit road. There you see him making his first pit stop of the day. Yorni Tamala also classified on pit road, running in the 9th position on the racetrack. We'll get our clock up for this. There's going to be a lot of guys that are in. You've got Tamala, you've got Ilbrink on pit road, you've got Hapala, Nakurian, Price and Barazini all coming in and out in some variety there. You see Nakurian's time getting himself 4 fresh tyres. He's going to come back out onto the racetrack any moment now. Isaac Price as well is making himself a pit stop. It's a long stop though for Isaac Price. Potentially a speeding penalty for him there, Rachel.
Could well be. Not something you want in a race like this, especially on your first stop, because it throws the second stop out of strategy.
Sorry, Rachel. Oh, who did he just touch the wall?
Did he
just touch the wall? He touched the wall entering the pit lane there, Will.
We'll have a look. We'll get a replay from that and we'll go on board with Gregor Hutu. Let's figure out what happened to him. This is that run down from the Audi S. So he'll work himself down into that final corner. That is his pit stop time up on your screen. This is not a live photo. This is a replay for Gregor Hutu. You can see he is coming back out onto the racetrack. 9.4 second stop for him. But let's slow it down and see if we can see anything there for Hutu. Does he make contact with that wall as he comes in? He is mighty close to it. I think he might. He catches the cone. We know that one to be true. And that goes, thankfully, away from the car. But I think he might have just dodged a bullet there, Rachel.
That was so close from Gregor Hutu. I think like you, I think you just missed it, and that is the luckiest move of the race. But very, very close there for him, and almost a race-ending incident.
Thankfully, though, that yellow cone is going to be undamaged. We've had a word. He's been checked and released from the infield care centre, so you can send your thoughts and prayers over to the yellow cone. Jake Sturgis leads the way, however, with 43 laps remaining in that IronX racing car. Now, he hasn't yet made a pit stop. He's the only driver in the top 5 not yet to make a pit stop. Sturgis potentially trying to do the alternate strategy the other way around. Other drivers who haven't yet pitted, Marta Piatella, Yuhu Abe, Alex Simpson. But as it stands right now, Sturgis got himself a 10.1 second gap over Benito. And to tie everything all back together, here is Benito, and here's the gap from Benito to Martin Kroenke. We'll get that one back up properly in a moment, because Kroenke is 4.3 seconds behind Benito, and Gregor Hutu is 1.7 seconds back from Martin Kroenke. Basically, nothing really happened at all there as far as those pit stops were concerned, Rachel.
No, very good stops from all of our top, well, our essential top 3. Very clean stops, very, very good strategy, and they're all in and out. But how many times will they come back in again, as we see Enzo Benito having a bit of a curb stomping moment? But yep. He's looking okay. Maybe a little bit flustered now. He's being caught by the others, or at least knows the strategy may not have paid off.
And here is Jake Sturgis for IronX Racing, of course. He had a chance to win an iRacing.com World Championship race back at Okayama earlier this year. Things didn't work out for him, technical issues, but here he comes, Daniel, onto pit road for the first time.
It'll be interesting to see as Sturgis hits the line. I still think this might be a 2-stop race, Will, even though he's gone a bit longer than everyone else. But I still think we'll see Sturgis in pit lane again after this stop.
There you see a pass, such as a lap car just moving down to the side of the track as Hutu goes past him. Kroenke went past him as well. But here is the pit time for Jake Sturgis, 8.1 seconds. That's clearly a 1-stop strategy there, a 2-stop strategy there, Rachel.
Yeah, very short pit stop, not taking on the full tank of fuel, of course, which means he's faster in his overall stints, but again, having to stop. Is it going to work here? Is it not? Is 1 stop too slow? I mean, what do you think of the tyre wear so far, guys? People don't seem to be getting too loose.
They don't, and it's interesting to note that in some ways, Sturgis is going to have a very similar issue to what we had with Benito a little bit earlier ago, because we're running on board now with Marta Piatella running in 7th position. Daniel, he hasn't yet made a pit stop.
Yeah, here we go again with the no stops. I wonder if Marta Piatella is on a 1-stop strategy this time. Mind you, as I say that, I bet you Piatella now pits this lap.
And Yuhu Abe also hasn't made a pit stop yet, and of course Abe is part of that running racing team. A bit like what we saw a couple of seasons ago, 1 or 2 drivers always in that alternate strategy. There you see Abe. Abe might actually try and be doing that 1-stop strategy. And yes, tell you what, we haven't seen too much of it. We have seen a couple of cars get loose with the Audi S, a couple of cars get loose here and there on the racetrack, but not too much, Rachel.
Not at all, but big news actually, guys. Enzo Benito has front right end plate damage on his front wing.
Wow. So we'll see if we can get a look on that one. See if we can see just about there. You might see it on our shot. We'll see if we can get a static camera up to see this one. We will have to slow down. There you see it on your screen. We will try and slow this one down once we get a decent camera angle. But Enzo Benito is struggling potentially now with some grip. His last lap though was a 110.9, so not bad for him at all. It's now just going to be a case of can he manage that one, Rachel?
Absolutely, it may have an effect, it may not have an effect, we don't even know. I mean, he might not even realise that he's got damage, but it could be a long run issue for him that could allow Martin and Gregor to catch up before the end of this race.
As we see, Benito carries on along the way, working themselves out of Line Night corner, back down towards turn number 1 once again. You can see it if you look very carefully. We'll come down into turn number 1 once again. Benito does lead the way. He's got himself now a 5-second advantage over Martin Kroenke. Comes down towards turn number 4. 39 laps, and there we'll see. We'll just stop it there. You can see just a little bit of damage to that car. Nothing too bad for him, however. Benito does do that last time by a 110.8 compared to Kroenke's 110.9. He's not going that slowly at all, really, Daniel.
No, not at all, and I'm surprised that Kroenke and Hootie didn't go longer than Benito. I honestly thought, considering Benito's pace at the beginning of the race, that that Kroenke and Hootie were on the alternate strategy to Benito, but it doesn't seem to be that way. It seems that Benito's pulling away on pure speed.
Yeah, and he's got to say that gap is 5 seconds now on the racetrack. Benito also hasn't won a race in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Now, earlier this year we had 2 new drivers winning in the space of 2 races. So we had Alexei Usiakola and we had also Ollie Picala. Now, if we add in Kroenke and we potentially add in Benito, that is going to be 4 first-time winners in a season. That is going to break all forms of records. And last time we had that, well, we had to go back to 2011 because in 2010, Hootie won all but 1 race, Rachel.
Yeah, and he's not quite had that form this time around, and he doesn't seem to be having it today either. Gregor is running well, of course, and we saw him close in last time on Martin Kroenke, but he just couldn't get close enough to pass him. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough today.
Yuhu Abe still hasn't yet made a pit stop, running himself in 7th place in that number 13 running racing car as he works himself out of corner number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just one moment as we get closer to the halfway point of this race from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Stick with us, we will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage of this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from Circuit Park Zandvoort. We'd like to remind you that it's Championship Week coming up here on iRacing for its World Championship Series. We will have the concluding round of the 2014 NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com. That'll be October 7th. Start time for that will be 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 167 laps around Homestead Miami Speedway on PSR TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and of course here also on iRacing Live. And then potentially in a couple of weeks time it will be Championship Week also for the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series as the drivers head over to the fabled Circuit of the Americas. That'll be here live on RaceSpotTV and also on iRacing Live. Enzo Benito continues to lead the way here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. He now has a 6.3 second gap over Martin Kroenke. But Rachel, here comes Hutu. He is now just 1 second behind Martin Kroenke in not only the battle for second place, but also the battle for the championship.
Absolutely, well, but I don't think it's all Gregor Hutu. Martin Kroenke, we think, may have been given a slowdown penalty by race control for cutting a corner, which has given Hutu the much needed break he needs, although Hutu looks like he's smelling blood in the water.
And you've also got Alexei Yusiakoda running in fourth, Andre Bortra rounding out your top five to ride along board with Gregor Hutu. Now the next 20 laps of this event, Daniel, is going to determine the championship. If Hutu can get himself past Martin Kroenke, be it on the racetrack or be it on pit road, then this championship could potentially be over.
It could well be, Will. It wouldn't surprise me either if Gregor Hutu does junk Martin Kroenke in the second set of pit stops, because in the first set of pit stops, Gregor was a second or did close the gap, down to a second between himself and Kroenke, but it has opened up and then it closed back down again when Kroenke made a mistake. But it seems to be Kroenke pulling away again from Hutu.
So, we'd like to give a shout out to a couple of people. I have to give a shout out actually to Pablo Lopez. He said hello to us earlier on the stream, so I'd like to say hello back to him, Pablo GoPro Lopez. Many people will know him from the 2013 and backward iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Hope he is doing well. Let us know your thoughts, by the way. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS on Twitter. Let us know, will this championship come down to the final round, or will Hutu wrap it up here today, getting himself past Martin Kroenke on the racetrack? As we've got ourselves here. See, that's a good pass there by Kroenke. Almost ran into the rear of Frank Levette the fourth, but he used that toe, Rachel, really well.
That he did, and it's given him an extra little boost over Gregor Hutu, who now has to deal with Frank Levette the fourth. But this could, if he gets past him cleanly, and as Frank Levette gets well out of Gregor Hutu's way, could have given him an advantage, but not quite as much as that toe.
Yes, but that gap is up to 1.4 seconds on the racetrack, and Daniel, that's the worst place you want to catch traffic, out of one through turns 2, 3 and 4. Yeah,
definitely. It can be very difficult to pass traffic through there, because not only is it very fast, particularly turns 4 through to 7, but very narrow through turns 2 and 3 and very one line.
You've got Yu Abe making his one and only pit stop of the day, so it's a one-stop strategy for Abe. Here's Alex Simpson on pit road as well. 11.1 second stop. It's going to be a one-stop strategy for him as he works himself out of pit road back onto the racetrack. Slow pit lane here, by the way, as Alex Simpson comes back out onto the racetrack just behind Jonas Nakurian. Now, all of these guys around him still have to pit one more time, so just because you see Alex Simpson P22 and Yu Abe in P18 doesn't mean that their race is over. And the important thing for these two drivers is now they don't need to get frustrated, because they, at this stage of the race, will now be a lot slower than their competition, Rachel. In some ways, this could be useful for them. They can just get themselves back into a rhythm, not have to worry about drivers around them. Alex Simpson's got no one behind him. Yu Abe, he's got a 7-second cushion over Antoine Heberlin.
Absolutely, that slower speed, obviously, from the heavier weight, it means they get themselves out into nice clean air much faster, and they can just hit their marks, hot lap, and they can get themselves to a place where their tyres will give them that advantage.
And there you see Yu Abe, again, one of the two drivers making themselves a one-stop track. I take that back. Antoine Hegelin has also made a stop. He's running in the 19th position now on the race track. So 3 drivers on this alternate one-stop strategy. Some of these guys, of course, are trying to ensure they stay in the top 20 in the standings for next year. And there you see the gap. Alex Simpson running himself in, actually take that back again, Alex Simpson running himself in 22nd place on the racetrack. There you see Yu Abe in 18th, Antoine Hegelin in 19th, 6 seconds between them. But out front, let's have a look. Martin Kroenke, his last lap was a 1 minute 10.666. Gregor Hutu, a 1 minute 10.740. Now we saw this in the last run, Rachel, that Hutu was faster about a third of the way in than Kroenke could respond. It looks as though he's doing the same thing again.
He is, and this is typical Gregor. But is it enough though? Will he have enough stint length to actually make something happen from it? If he can get ahead of him during the pit stops, I think Gregor can stay ahead. But he will have to work really hard now until they get into the pits to get right behind him or past him. If he can do that, it's going to be his championship.
So that Fanatec Team Redline car is 8.4 seconds behind his teammate Enzo Benito. Now we were just asked a question on our YouTube channel, Daniel. Why doesn't Enzo Benito back up Kroenke into Hutu? Well, the answer for it is very simple. Enzo Benito's not won a race so far. I think that's first on the mind of Benito, and also we know that there are no team orders in Team Redline. It's been said time and time again. Would Benito really want to give up a win for a championship that really is still a very close battle as far as Hutu being able to get it? Because Hutu just really needs to finish the next 2 races in the top 20. That championship is his.
Yeah, you're completely right there, Will. I mean, they have gone the alternate strategy between, well, we thought they had between the 2 cars, but it seems to be that both cars are on 2-stop strategies now. But obviously Benito's put faith in himself, and then the engineers at Team Redline have put the faith in Benito that he can pull out a 7-second lead over Kroenke and then keep it. I mean, they have all the belief in the world in Hutu, do the Team Redline engineers. They know what he can do. They know that he'll play smart, and they know he'll play championship.
And there you see Benito just going around a little bit of traffic. That is Jonas Nakurian. It's now just 20 cars remaining on the lead lap. There you see Martin Kroenke as he works himself to complete another lap here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks' time we head over to the fabled Circuit of the Americas. Now this comes back to a point that I made 2 weeks ago, Rachel. If you're Gregor Hutu, you want to get this championship wrapped up now, because Hutu in 2 weeks' time, it's a very hard track with so many runoff areas, so many places to lose the car, sector 1, all of those high curbs. But then also, number 2, it's an unknown track. No one has anything to compare anything to anyone. And we know historically, Redline are good at this track because it was Hutu's teammate, Ati Kurkov, who won here last year.
That is true, but again, you know, Enzo, his teammate, it's his chance for a win today. They could potentially give up that chance by backing him up and slowing down Martin Kroenke, but it's no guarantee, though, that Gregor will get past him. So they could give a win to Martin Kroenke if they try that strategy. As we know, Martin Kroenke is good in traffic, so they're really having to work here. And I think if Gregor is, let's be honest, unless he has an accident, almost assured to finish in the top 20. So where he's running now, in 3rd, if he finishes here, he's just got to have a reasonable race next week for the final round, and he wins. So the odds are in their favour with this conservative strategy.
Let's check in on the battle with Dion Vergers and Ilka Hapala, 2 teammates for the Orion race team who did so well, Rachel, 2 weeks ago. Ilka Hapala, great podium position for them. Now, he's not really having as strong a day today. We've got 1 car in the top 10, that's Dion Vergers. Ilka Hapala just outside the top 10 in 11th. These are the guys that's going to have to remember the fact that Simpson, Abe, and also Hegelin are on this alternate strategy. I'm just trying to cycle back through. I think out of them, potentially, you might have Abe coming into the mix here.
Absolutely, it's going to be very close back there in the points, and all these drivers, they've all got something to race for. Nobody's comfortable.
Let's give a couple more shouts out. First of all, to Ati Kurkov, who of course won this race 1 year ago, back when this race was held on Labor Day weekend. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Nemesis 101. He's having a bit of fun here on our YouTube feed right now. But this battle for P10, and again, this mid-pack, Daniel, we talked about it all race long. These drivers who've got to rack up the points, and Verges and Hapala are doing just that right now. As we have a look from Hapala and have a look at these two cars ahead of him, Dion Verges and Paul Ilbrink.
Yeah, both these guys need the points, but I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see the two Orion racing cars work together, because look who's just ahead of Dion Verges. The Radical Sims Steel Series car of Paul Ilbrink, who's also in the 9th position. So I feel that the two Orion racing cars are actually going to work together and try and beat the Radical that is Paul Ilbrink.
Jonas Nakuri and Rocco Baroni battling for position once again. Now Nakurian's had himself a pretty tough race here today, down 5 spots since those lights went out to start this event. Rocco Baroni, of course, he had his incident as a big wiggle there, Rachel, from Nakurian.
Yeah, Rocco's not seemed particularly comfortable with his car since that initial contact. Whether he's got some lingering damage or not, we don't know, but that car is just beyond him at the moment.
So we're having a look at that battle, and you see Baroni's been able to pull. Oh, he's gone off the racetrack in a big way there.
Nice save there from him.
That, like the Parabolica, is one corner that you never want to lose your car, because Rachel, you lose so much speed and momentum. You can just see cars swarming past him. Having a look once again, this is through the Audi S. Rocco Baroni's day is going from bad to really bad now.
Absolutely, but don't worry, next year they'll probably pave that over as well.
Yeah.
So we'll all be okay. But no, a great save from there. Big time loss though, as he gives up 2 spots. You know, it's really not been his day, like you said. You know, he's had so many problems. The car's been so tough on him, and now he's been playing in the sandpit. So not Rocco Baroni's day.
It is not his finest hour on that Movano X-Team car. We'll get ourselves one more look at that. And that all came down to that curb. And you mentioned curb hopping earlier on in this broadcast, Rachel, that some of these drivers are using a lot of curb. Now, that was all fine for Baroni until he got onto that rumble strip on the exit of the corner. He got that underside of the car there, and he was off into the grass, into the gravel, and losing himself a lot of time there.
Absolutely, but it's one thing to use the curbs at this track, and they are quite aggressive curbs. As long as you got your wheels on them, you're fine. But as soon as you get the plank of that car onto that rumble strip, it's like a monorail. Off you go.
Having a look then at Jake Sturgis running himself in 6th place on the racetrack right now. Sturgis is having another Jake Sturgis race, Daniel. We're not talking about him, but he's there in 6th position, knocking on the door of the top 5. His last lap was just a little bit slower than Andre Bortri. He's caught a bit of dirty air that lap. But again, Jake Sturgis is one of these guys who just somehow finds himself knocking on the door of the top 5. Started 8th, now running in 6th.
Yeah, when you say knocking on the door, you're not kidding, Will. He's like 6/10 of a second behind Andre Borchardt at the moment is Jake Sturgis. So very close to Andre Borchardt. It's going to be interesting to see if he can get close enough with the dirty air. Obviously, very essential as we come to the end of the part of the circuit where it is very essential to all that downforce. But I mean, we know that Jake Sturgis, we know he was a very good driver. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with Andre Borchardt.
And of course, Jake Sturgis early on this year almost became the first driver to win a race both in the NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com and also in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. He hasn't yet managed that feat, but go on.
Sorry to cut in, Will. Enzo Benito is now in the pit lane for his 2nd pit stop.
Yep, so we'll have a look then. Here is Enzo Benito, pit stop number 2. He was in a couple of laps before Cronke and Hootie like last time, Bri. It's a 9.2 second stop. He is out and away, and that is pit stops complete then. I think at least for Enzo Benito. He comes back out onto the racetrack, and he's got Jake Sturgis 0.7 of a second ahead of him. But this time, much better track placement for Benito compared to last time, Rachel.
Yep, this is going to be critical for Enzo Benito. Last time he came out in the middle of a mid-pack scrum, whereas this time he's got a lot of track to play with. Clean air, no one behind him. Even though he's heavy with fuel, he's now got that room and that freedom. This could well have won him the race.
So a 9.2 second stop, confirmation of that as we've just having a look through. We've got another couple of cars on pit road. We're bringing confirmation of that in just 1 moment's time. As Dion Verges, indeed, just making a pit stop back out onto the racetrack. 9.2 second stop for him. And here comes Kroenke onto pit road.
Yeah, definitely will as he comes down and looking for his pit stall. So slow here at 60 kilometers an hour, pit lane speed limit 37 miles an hour for those using the Imperial system as he comes into his box now.
Yep, so there we'll see as we look high above Martin Kroenke making his final stop of the day. It will need to be around that 9-second window. It's an 8.7 stop, back out away there for Martin Kroenke. Good stop, Rachel.
Yep, very good stop from him there. Pit crew working really, really well. But, you know, it's still, again, position. What's it going to do for him? Can he make it work now? The last 2 stops has not helped.
8.7 stop for Andre Borcha as he is back out and away onto the racetrack. So we've got a battle here we need to keep an eye out on between Borcha and Sturgis. We've also got, of course, that battle with Gregor Hutu and Martin Kroenke. So we'll keep an eye out now on Gregor Hutu because he's working himself on the back end of the racetrack, working himself through this incredibly high-speed section. We talked about it before, working himself down into Mulber box. But now he's coming out of the final corner. Let's take it on back. Arrowline that corner, then down towards turn number 1 once again. 50 laps of this event will be scored complete in just about 2.6 miles time. Hutu leading for the 2nd time here today, but there's all been through the signals of pit stops, Rachel. He has been outmatched today by his teammate.
Absolutely. Enzo Benito's car is just on fire. That car is so fast, and Enzo is on top of it. Even if they turned around and told him, back it up, slow down Martin Kroenke, let Gregor get the victory, I don't think he'd listen. He's in the zone. He's doing so well.
Alexei Yakola making a pit stop, 8.3 second stop for him. He is back out and away onto the racetrack. So Yakola back out for Glacier Racing. And I'm not going to lie to you, Rachel. I expected a bit more from Yakola here today.
No, me too. I think he's really not quite... He's driving below his own standard. The guy's good, very good, but he's just off the ball today.
Let's keep an eye out. Will Hutu come onto pit road this time by? You've got a couple of drivers on already. No, he won't. Yes, he will. No, he won't. He kind of dummies in there, Rachel.
Not sure who he's dummying there with no one that close behind him, but it's a very, very late move there.
Long start for Ollie Picard, 23.4 seconds. That's going to really hurt his charge throughout the rest of the race. An 8.6 second stop for Alexia Lomo. Speeding penalty, Daniel?
No, Jake Sturgis is currently in the lane as well for his 2nd pit stop of the race.
Yep, here he is then. Jake Sturgis looking to make his 2nd and final pit stop of the day. Don't forget, he is involved in a battle with Borch to try and get himself into top 5. Let's get the time up for him because it's going to be, we've got another car onto pit road as well. That is a Mogar Philo just at the top of your screen. You see coming in. 7.9 second stop then for Jake Sturgis, and there you see is Mogar Philo making a pit stop. Just behind him, you've got one of the Orion racing cars coming onto pit road. So here comes Mogar Philo, and we've got a very busy pit lane right now. So Mogar Philo is in. You've also got Ilka Hapala in. 8.1 second stop for Mogar Philo. It's going to be about the same for Ilka Hapala. 4 fresh boots for him. Fulvio Barazzini on pit road. Again, looking around that 8-second window. 7.9 second stop that time. As we've got one more car onto pit road. That is going to be Yunus Nakurian. And of course, we are still waiting for your race leader. He is on pit road right now.
Interesting thing though, Will. Last 4 laps, Gregor Hutu has dropped the hammer. But for lap 48, 110.584, 49, 110.497, 576, and a 396.
Wow.
For lap 51, Gregor Hutu dropped the hammer, big style that time round. As he goes
he's
fast.
ahead. He's ahead of Martin Kroenke. There you will see. We'll cycle that camera around. That is Martin Kroenke in the background. Gregor Hutu up into 2nd place in this event. If he finishes here, that will be the championship done. Gregor Hutu will be a 4-time champion. I'm thinking back already to back in 2000, Rachel. It came down to this for Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen as Yunus Nakurian right behind Hutu. Of course, those two made contact back in Brazil early on in this season. Kroenke now goes past, but what a time to put that hammer down, as if there was ever a bad time for Gregor Hutu to do so.
Gregor Hutu, he's just pulled the move of the race. You know, he literally got the exact time he needed to do it. As soon as Martin Kroenke came in, Gregor went for it. Everything he had, he made that gap, and he got himself the track position. You know, that was the crew.
I tell you who also, I think Kroenke may have gone a slow down there. Well, I'll come back to that though. Who also did a Hutu style move was Jake Sturgis, who jumped Andre Borgia in pit stops.
Oh, we've got a car on track. We'll come back to that one in just 1 moment's time. But yes, we have heard Kroenke has slowed down. He's now 2 seconds behind Gregor Hutu. Just trying to figure out who this car is around, and it is Jonas Nakurian. So Nakurian having a tough day, and he's parked in a really precarious position right now, Rachel.
He went straight into that wall. It looked like he was trying to get onto the rumble strip to get out of the way of Martin Kroenke as he came past to lap him. But that car, it just, yeah, he comes through the final corner, and Kroenke's behind him. He gets onto the rumble strips and just seems to get onto the grass and run straight across.
And that is, we'll have to come back. There's a lot to talk about in this clip. You see Kroenke slow down there. Nakurian just off the track in a similar way we saw earlier on today. He is going to be classified as out of the race, and that is going to be a very tough call for him. Now, we need to keep a look at this. You see, for Martin Kroenke, you see the slowdown penalty. That is what this is what set off that entire chain sequence, because Nakurian out on the inside line. Then, of course, blue flag rules in operation. He'd have to get out of the way. He tried to get out of the way, then ran wide on the racetrack. But we need to slow this one down to have another look at Martin Kroenke to see what happened to him. Because this is that run down towards the Audi S. We'll go on board now with Martin Kroenke. We'll slow it down and let's see where he cut it. It was right there, Daniel. That inside curb that caught out drivers earlier, catching out Martin Kroenke. Under pressure, Kroenke has cracked, and now the gap is 2.1 seconds to Gregor Hutu.
I wonder if it was a bit of pressure and a bit of frustration in a way for Kroenke, seeing Hutu pull out in front of him. It was mighty close between the two, but I think Kroenke just might be getting a little frustrated and may just admit defeat now that the championship really is gone.
Paul Ilbrink, by the way, is onto pit road. We're going to get you one more look. As you see, there's chaos all over the place. Guys lapping guys, trying to get past guys, of course. They just got him past Nakurian. Then this is it again, coming down into, that is the cut of the curb there, down into the Audi S, and that could be the moment, Rachel, that really does cost Kroenke this championship.
Oh, it could be, and if it is, he will be kicking himself for months. It's a silly mistake, and from someone who's been so consistent so far, he's going to really hate himself for it.
We're on board with Kroenke then. Less than 15 laps to go this time by in this event. We have got people still battling out on the racetrack, and this is confirmation that Jake Sturgis is now ahead by some considerable margin actually over Andre Borgia. Sturgis is into the top 5, Borgia is 5 seconds back, and that is not what we thought. It's going to be a lot closer than that, Rachel.
Absolutely, it's not quite his day either. He just doesn't seem to have it today.
We've also
I think Andre Borgia got pretty held up on his outlets in traffic. He seemed to rejoin in a lot of traffic. I think that's what cost Borgia 5th position.
That's what we thought could have been the case for Enzo Benito earlier on, but Borgia, of course, is not the lead car. People are still going to get out your way, but if you catch him at the wrong point, this is what I said earlier, Rachel, to ride along board of guys like Price in 17th, trying to catch up to the rear of a very slow Oli Picano, who, of course, had that penalty earlier on in this event. But if you catch guys through turns 2, 3 and 4, like in GT racing here, it can cost you a good 2-3 seconds.
That's so true, and we saw it with Enzo Benito earlier. There's been some very dodgy calls by the pit wall engineers for these guys, bringing their cars out in really bad traffic, and it's going to be costing a few people quite a few places.
So then, ladies and gentlemen, let's run through your top 10 as it stands. It is currently going to be Enzo Benito still leading the way here. Second place is Gregor Hutu, Martin Kroenke in 3rd, Alexei Usiakola in the 4th position, Jake Sturgis in 5th, Andre Borgia in 6th, Mogar Philo in 7th, Yuhu Abe in the 8th position, Ilka Hapala in 9th, and then Jeremy Bootsloop rounds out your top 10. We're going to step aside for just 1 moment's time, and then we'll be back with the final 15 laps of this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Stick with us.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. The race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it,
here we go.
you love it. The 0-1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big jump.
So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this continuing coverage of the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Enzo Benito is still your race leader, but on the second round of pit stops, it was Gregor Hutu who's able to get out ahead of Martin Kroenke. There you see Gregor Hutu on your screen, and there you can see potentially admitting defeat, Martin Kroenke in 3rd place, 3 seconds behind his championship rival. Now what this means, if the race finishes now, Gregor Hutu will become a 4-time iRacing.com World Champion, a feat, Rachel, that no one has achieved on iRacing.
No, and it will signify his absolute and utter domination of iRacing. Gregor has had a great career here, and he's looking like he's going to basically enter the history books. Something that couldn't be achieved before, and he's pretty much written the rule book on himself.
We did get confirmation the championship has never gone down to the final round, and it will not happen again if things stay the way they are. Kroenke needed to finish ahead of Hutu, and at some point potentially hope that Hutu had a mistake or had an incident the same way he did 2 weeks ago at Suzuka. But for Hutu, it is now just 12 laps to go before he becomes a 4-time champion. Want to know anyone who's close to him? Well, the only person is currently Ray Alfala, who has had 2 championships under his belt, and he is looking to try and get his 3rd. And of course, you'll see that one on PSR TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and on iRacing Live, October 7th, 9 PM, as drivers do 167 laps around the fabled Homestead Miami Speedway to conclude that season. Just checking in very quickly on the battle between Ilka Hapala and Yuhu Abe. Now, this is what I said earlier, Daniel, that you needed to pay attention to Yuhu Abe, because there we see him up on our screen. There you see the gap to Hapala. Abe has leapfrogged himself up into the top 10 on that one-stop strategy.
It's very interesting, the game that Yuhu's played, and it's played very well into his advantage with Hapala and Beetle not too far behind him either. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys start battling and form a train that Ilbrink may be able to catch him as well. But very good move from the Ronin Racing team for the Yuhu Abe car. It would be interesting to see. I wonder if Kazuki Omishima was on this strategy as well, considering before he made that mistake, he also had a pretty big fade train behind him. So it would have been interesting to see if Omishima did have this strategy and where it would have led him as well.
He did indeed. We're just checking in with Martin Piatella, who is 0.5 seconds right now behind Alexia Loma. They're battling for P13 on the racetrack. And Loma, of course, hasn't run a full season. When he has run races, he's done a lot much better in these last couple of events, Loma. Now, running in that 13th position, having an okay day, I think we can say. Up 6 points since the drop of the green flag here, but still, a bad qualifying has hurt his chances to get into the top 10.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alexei Loma, I've noticed in the races that he has raced, and he hasn't been the best qualifier. He seems to do a lot better in the races than he does at qualifying, but very hard to do that on the track. That's very hard to pass on. So I think that reflects his performance today.
Today you see the cars working themselves through that fast turn 2, 3 and 4 section on the racetrack. But here is Enzo Benito, 10 laps left to go. He has been untouchable in this event, but he is now actually being caught by Gregor Hutu. Now, Hutu doesn't need to win this race to win the championship, and that question is now going to start appearing. Will Benito allow Hutu to go past to secure the championship here, or does Benito say, hey, I've not won a race in this championship ever, it's my chance to try now?
As I said earlier, I mean, Hutu would be thinking championship, and I'm sure the guys in Team Roadline are saying, like, keep the foot down, keep the pace up. But I reckon they'll keep Benito out in front so he can finally win his first win, take his first win, sorry, in a WCS competition.
And Rachel, as it stands, less than 10 laps to go for Enzo Benito in that Team Redline car. Ironically, he'll also be, I think, the second Italian driver to win a race. I believe that Fulvio Barazini won a race at Indianapolis last year, that crazy race we had down there. But now just 9 laps to go for Enzo Benito. Last lap time for him, a 1 minute 10.618. Last lap time for Hutu as he comes past the start finish line, a 1 minute 10.627. Benito's clearly not slowing down at all.
He's not, and he's had a flawless race so far. Enzo's had an awesome run, and if anyone deserves this race, he does. He's dominated. But somebody who's doing the opposite of domination is Martin Kroenke, unfortunately, who, whilst he's had a fast lap this time around, that car is becoming a handful for him. I've been watching him for several laps now, and he's getting wobbles, he's getting loose. He's had a couple of 1 minute 12 laps. He's really struggling now, and I don't think he has a chance of catching Gregor Hutu unless he makes a major mistake.
No, the gap is 5 seconds as it stands right now between Hutu and Kroenke. Kroenke runs very wide there, not run down into Vodafone. It does look as though he's just pushing it, Rachel, and he's pushing it when, realistically, with 8 laps to go in this event, nothing's going to really happen. Even if Hutu gets 2 slowdown penalties, then Kroenke is still going to be about 1.5 seconds back. Is this that time now that Kroenke is trying to do something which is impossible? Of course, he's been doing that impossible run the last month or so. Is it the fact that it's so difficult to get out of that mindset to get yourself, accepting defeat?
I don't think defeat is a word in the vocabulary of these guys, any of these guys in this field. And Martin Kroenke, he's trying so hard, and it's just not going to happen, I don't think. You can see him pushing his car so hard. He wobbles under acceleration coming out the corners. The car sometimes get a little bit wide, missing an apex or two because he's pushing so hard. He's giving it everything he's got, and this is just reminiscent of Alonso and Vettel in Interlagos in the Formula 1 last year, or 2012, sorry, where you could just see that defeat on Alonso's face at the end. I think Kroenke is trying everything, and he, of anybody, deserves this championship, so it's going to be really tough for him, I think.
Juhuabe Ilka Parna battling for P8 in the remaining laps of this event. Now, Juhuabe, of course, for those of you who are just joining us, on a one-stop strategy. Ilka Parna on the traditional two-stop strategy. Abe was able to get out ahead of Ilka Parna. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, in 2 weeks' time, we head over to Circuit of the Americas for the concluding round of the championship. For Abe today, it's been a good race, but Herpada and now Bootloop are in that mix, as you suggested, Daniel.
Yeah, it looks like Ilbrink might be joining this train as well in the next few laps. But it's interesting, Abe. It seems to be like what we saw with his teammate Omashima at the start of the race, starting to form have a freight train form behind him. I thought that was more Garfilo at the road, but it's actually just a lap car. But it's interesting. I think Juhuabe's actually got the pace to keep his position ahead of Ilka Parna. As we have said this whole race, it's very hard to pass here, so it's going to be interesting to see how this battle group ends.
Yep, there you see the gap. It's 0.5 of a second from Abe to Herpada. There you see the gap from Herpada to Bootloop. It is again about 0.5 of a second on the racetrack. The car you see that is Frank Levesque at the front of your screen. He is scored 1 lap down, so is not involved in this battle at all. Less than 10 laps to go, and this is a sterling battle we've got on our racetrack. We've got one other going on, and that is with Carla and Price. We'll cut to that one quickly, but Picardo's had a tough day here today, Rachel. No power steering, force feedback at all race long, and also he had himself that speeding penalty, putting himself outside the top 15.
Yeah, that's going to be a really tough race for him. These cars are pretty hard to handle, especially without the feeling the car gets, and the speeding penalty, that's just frustration, I think, and him being overtaxed to the cockpit.
So then, these guys are battling for P16 on the racetrack. It's the final part of this event, but Apana is much closer now as we ride along board with him. Oh, we got a spinner! Abe's been turned around. I'm not sure whether there is contact there. We'll get another look at that one immediately, as here is Yuhu Abe, and this is down into the Audi S, and let's see if we can slow it down, see what happens here as they come down into the corner. Was there contact? I'm not quite sure. Yes, there was contact there between those two drivers.
Yeah, looking at that, there has to have been contact. The way the car moved around, he just got tapped at the back by that car behind him. Not what he needed.
Let's have one more look then from the rear of Yuhu Abe. This is working himself, say, through the Audi S. And this is going to be disappointing for Abe because, of course, he is still trying to get championship, top 20 points, etc. Once again, we'll slow it down. And this is that point where you see that contact there. It's going to happen about now. And that car just losing it on the rear. That running racing team driver spun around. That is going to be upsetting for Yuhu Abe as he's now down into P11 on the racetrack, Daniel.
Yeah, he's got more pressure from behind now from Verges, Aloma, and looks like Marty Piatella is going to be joining this little train, this little group as well. As Aloma and Verges are very close together at the moment.
And 5 laps to go. It's a big wiggle again for you, Abe, and this is a big contact we get. Alexia Loma out, and Dion Verges out there as well. Now, that all started with the wiggle for Yuhu Abe. I'm wondering if he had any damage there, but we'll get ourselves a replay of this. And this was Yuhu Abe again. This is kirking himself down into Ari Lyndike corner, and you'll notice just about here, big wiggle, car spun around, and Dion Verges is out. Now, I'm not sure what the situation is, whether or not there's going to be too much damage to Alexia Loma. We'll see whether or not we can get a replay from on board of him, and this is going to see you exactly what happened, as again, coming down into Ari Lyndike corner. Let's slow it down. You see, there's the wiggle there for Yuhu Abe. There you can see nowhere to go for Alexia Loma. I think actually he wasn't paying too much attention. That was the contact there between those two drivers. And Alexia Loma, you'll see, getting some front wing damage, but a hard contact there, Rachel, for Dion Verges.
Absolutely. Big impact. High G impact there for Verges into that wall.
Sorry to cut in, but I think Flavio Berrezzini, who was looking at Yuhu Abe's, just pushed Oli Piccola off the track going into the Audi S's.
Yeah, we'll get a look at that one up on your screen. Yes, it's replay city here all of a sudden, but we'll get ourselves a look. Fulvio Berrezzini, there you see him up on your screen. There you see Yuhu Abe coming down into the Audi S's, and yes, there was contact there with Oli Piccola as they came down into the Audi S's. Now, Rachel, that was all because of the fact that they were trying to get around Yuhu Abe, but of course now has a damaged race car.
Absolutely, this is when it's absolutely mattering now for positions and points. We're in the last couple of laps and everything matters now. Early in the race, you let someone pass, doesn't really matter. Now, it's all to play for.
Yeah, there you see it. Another super slow-mo replay, as there was almost a secondary impact, actually, with Berrezzini and Price. Very good there for Price to just avoid what could have been a chaotic situation. Of course, you've got the recovering Alexia Loma there as well. Out front, however, let's take a breath, Rachel. It is still Enzo Benito leading.
Absolutely. No need for a replay here because he's been replaying these laps in his mind since the start. A dominating race.
Although
3-second lead over his teammate.
Although, look who he's now coming up to. This huge gaggle of cars who in the last 5 laps have pretty much decided to play a little bit of bumpy cart. So he's now got to be very careful.
Yep, he's now to thread the Dodgem needle, and he could well get burned in the process, but let's hope not. He's just moving up, hopefully get to clear this traffic, but with them battling so hard in the final laps, they might not be as keen to move over for him as he would want.
And to run through blue flag rule procedures, it is different from all other series on the iRacing.com service. Now, normally blue flag rules are informational only. However, in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, Daniel, blue flag rules mean, like in Formula 1, please move out of the way and do so in a moderately quick amount of time because you don't want to hold the leaders up.
Yeah, definitely will. But the problem is, especially it looks like Aloma was all over the back of Abe again. In that sort of situation, you're trying to focus on that, but you're also focusing on the battle for position. I mean, look at Berrezzini, Aloma, Hageland, all like nose to tail as they come down. In fact, Aloma and Berrezzini are side by side here. Hageland's going to make it 3 wide. I thought Hageland was going to make it 3 wide there. That could have been interesting.
Yeah, as Aloma gets the pass done over, you saw the battered car there of Fulvio Berrezzini. Now we get Hageland moving out of the way, so that makes things a little bit easier. Alexi Aloma back up 1 position. There you see Fulvio Berrezzini. There you'll see, now just coming past him will be Enzo Benito. There you see just going past him. So 1 more lap to go in this event, and actually Berrezzini in all of that lost out to Antoine Hageland. That was a great move by Hageland.
Very opportunistic there from Antoine Hageland to make the move on Berrezzini, and that could be pivotal in the championship come the end of the next race at Coda.
So 1 more lap to go. In the middle of all of this, you will see the 3rd car in line is Enzo Benito. He's got lap traffic and he's playing it incredibly comfortably. And Rachel, when you've got half a lap to go from winning your first iRacing.com World Championship event, this is the last thing you're ever going to want, because the guys are trying to unlap themselves to try and to avoid, and Enzo Benito is just trying to avoid being caught out in the melee here.
Yeah, he's not in the best place at all, and he's got to be so nervous right now, Will, but he's doing a brilliant job. He has deserved this win from the drop of the green flag.
And coming out of the LDS for the final time, you will see that now is just 2 corners left to go. There is a damaged Yuhu Abe ahead of him, but that is not going to matter. Enzo Benito will work himself out of the final corner for the final time. He becomes a winner in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, but 3 seconds back, Gregor Hutu becomes a 4-time iRacing.com World Champion. Hutu comes in 2nd place. Here comes Martin Kroenke, 3rd place for him. It is not enough. It came down to that 2nd round of pit stops. Martin Kroenke has to settle for 3rd place, 2nd place in the championship for him. But overall, it's been a wild race here today. We had some great battles on track, Rachel, but strategy dictated it for Hutu.
Absolutely, as the 2 teammates there celebrated side by side. Hutu made a brilliant choice, and his engineers made the call of the race. Before the 2nd stop, just to remind viewers, for his 2nd stop, Gregor Hutu strapped rockets onto his car and went for it, running some of the fastest times of this race, if not, I think, the fastest lap, a 10.3. This guy was incredible. He did exactly what he needed to do, and just hard luck for Martin Kroenke because he fell to a brilliant strategic play. But Hutu got that track position. He stayed with Kroenke for the entire race, and 4th-time champion.
Riding on board then with the driver who has won this championship as he's doing the donuts there out of Vodafone corner. And I'm not going to lie to you, Rachel, I don't think I've seen a good donut in an F1 car in quite a while.
Well, no, the last person who did that got punished for it and had to keep paying for them, as we remember Sebastian Vettel. But, yeah, Gregor doing some donuts, and he well deserves to. If he just ran a great race. I do feel though for Martin Kroenke, because he had an awesome run himself, and it's just, yeah, well deserving position for him, and hopefully get some good points in the final race, secure 2nd. But Gregor Hutu, is he unbeatable? Well,
Gregor Hutu won this championship in 2010, 2012, 2013, and now 2014. It was Hugo Luis who won in 2011, and the team pretty much now known as Coanda Simsport. It was My3ID Gaming back in 2011, now of course known as Coanda Simsport, after also being known as 3ID Motorsports. Martin Kroenke, he tried valiantly though, Daniel. It came down to a race and a 3rd left to go in the championship. We see these cars bring themselves back onto pit road. You've got to give credit to Kroenke. He tried everything. And the first 2/3 of a race, he was going to take that battle to Kota.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the whole 2nd half of the season from Martin Kroenke was absolutely amazing driving from him. I mean, the last month especially, I mean, two race wins. I mean, this is the first race that Coanda Motorsport officially hasn't won, believe it or not. But Kroenke put in an absolutely valiant effort, and to be honest, I reckon Martin will come back bigger, better and stronger come next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will run through your final race results of some of the cars just bringing themselves onto pit road. And to provide you with your final race results from this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series for 2014, it is Enzo Benito who takes victory at Circuit Park Zandvoort by 3.3 seconds over Gregor Hutu. Doesn't matter, Hutu is a 4-time champion. Martin Kroenke coming home in the 3rd position, about 9 seconds behind your overall race leader. Coming down into that 2nd round of pit stops, Kroenke was ahead of Hutu, but then lost out dramatically with a couple of minor mistakes and a huge charge by the now 4-time champion. Alexei Yusiakalo coming home in 4th place, Jake Sturgis in 5th, Andre Borcha in 6th, Mo Garfilo, great result by him in 7th, Ilka Hapala, he falls back into the 8th position in the end, Jeremy Bootloop in 9th, and then 10th place is Paul Ilbrink. Then Marty Piatella in 11th, Isaac Price in 12th, Yuhu Abe in the 13th position, Alexia Loma, Antoine Hegelin round out your top 15. Rest of results coming up on your screen. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to step aside for just 1 moment's time, and then we'll be back with post-race interviews, including hopefully a word with your now 4-time iRacing.com World Champion, Team Redlines, Gregor Hutu. We will be right back.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch going into turn 2. And now the 93, 39, the 30 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's been the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can lift it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it,
here we go.
you love it. The 1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big jump.
The last month of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series had seen Coanda Simsport domination. Martin Kroenke winning his first race of his career in this series, and then following up, making it 2 out of 2 and keeping the impossible dream alive. That dream came to a shuddering halt after the 2nd round of pit stops here today at Circuit Park Zandvoort, as Gregor Hutu doing what he does best, running that mid-race pace that only he knows, getting himself into P2, which is good enough to make him a 4-time champion. It also was a good day for Hutu's teammate, Enzo Benito, who joins the list of first-time winners here today. You've got yourself now Alexei Yusiakalo, Ollie Picala, Martin Kroenke and Enzo Benito as first-time winners, making that a record in the series. And Rachel, what a way to do it for Team Redline, winning the race, winning a championship on the same day.
Absolutely, and it isn't just the same driver winning the race of the championship, but the team as a whole has got to feel really good for this one. Obviously, Enzo Benito, first time win for him, a big deal, so they take the race, but Gregor comes in second, so a 1-2 for the team, championship and race win. There's going to be some partying tonight, Will.
We are hopefully going to get a word with team principal Dom Duhan, and maybe even a word from the 4-time champion himself. But what we're going to do first is going to have a chat with the guy who came home in the 4th position, Alexei Yusiakola. You came home 4th, but it was a bit of a wild one out here today at Circuit Park Zandvoort.
Well, hi Will. First of all, congrats to Gregor for the championship. It was just an amazing performance here at Zandvoort. Yeah, what I can say, little bit of bad luck last race, and now just a clean race. I think pace was not good enough to challenge Gregor or Enzo or Martin, but well, after the first stint I just pushed it on the full shot and tried to pass Andre on the first pit stop, but after that I just kept the car on the track and got the top 4.
Now, you qualified here today, you'll see it on the screen, in the 4th position. You came home in the 4th position. Good points here today, and as the championship draws to a close, is it now a good thing for you after what had been a couple of tough races for you recently?
Well, it was good to get a decent result here before the Circuit of the Americas, because it's gonna be a hard track, and it's the season finale. Of course, it's gonna be special. My kinda first DWC season and the last race, so can't complain anything about this. But yeah, hard to say. The same that Olli couldn't race good today, but maybe he can get some result at the season finale.
Now, with one race to go in the championship, and of course, capping up what's been a very good year for Glacier Racing, now that the championship's been decided, do you think that this is now ample chance for you to try and get yourself another W at Kota?
Well, let's see. I will try to win, of course, the last race, because I can still challenge my teammate Olli for the 3rd place on the championships. So there's not gonna be any team orders, we just fight for the win.
Well, thank you very much, Alexei Yusiakola, coming home today in the 4th place. Rachel, he did a good job. Of course, unfortunately, his teammate Olli Piccardo had a very tough day, but Alexei Yusiakola bringing it home, another top 5 finish for Glacier Racing.
Absolutely, and that's all of what it's about, consistency and points. And running into a new round where no one's actually run yet means it's going to make it a very interesting finale, even though the championship has been decided.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome into the RaceSpotTV broadcast booth the guy who came home today in the 2nd place, but securing himself his 4th world title. Gregor Hutu, how does that feel to now be known as a 4-time iRacing.com world champion?
Feels pretty good, I guess. It got a bit close in the end, right at the end of the season. A bit too exciting, but luckily I was able to get over the line right before the last race.
Now let's go back to those races since the summer break, because we had Hugo Louise retiring from competition. Of course, he's been your biggest rival the last 2.5 years, in fact 3 years now. Then you have Martin Kroenke step up to the fold, winning his first race in WCS competition. Then we come to Suzuka, that turn 1 incident, which I'm sure you must have been thinking after that, is it going to be someone else's day this year after you'd had that incredible run of form in the mid-season?
Yeah, I guess Hugo gave me all his bad luck when he retired. So the last few races, I think it's been mainly down to qualifying, and I've had great race pace, but wasn't able to show it at Suzuka, so that was a bit disappointing. But luckily, I had a great run during the mid-season, so it was just enough to have a safe gap for the last races.
And you make a point there about qualifying that your team principal, Dom Duhan, talked about a couple of weeks ago, and saying that qualifying in some ways bores you. Has that been the case, really? I mean, how hard has qualifying been this season? And secondly, has the fact that you've been able to show that blistering pace in the second half of a fuel stint really been the way that you've been able to switch these races around? Because you've come from P4, P5 on the grid and below to still being able to take that checkered flag first.
I guess I'm just, a little bit bored with testing, qualifying and stuff like that. So, but, I've had good pace in practice, but I haven't been able to put the lap down when it counts. So I guess I'm just getting too old to nail those laps. But yeah, luckily I've had the pace in the races to come through the field and be there at the end.
Now,
speaking of coming through the...
Oi.
Sorry.
Oi, oi, I had a question, then you were going to ask a question. I've got a question. Now, after that second round of pit stops, once you got yourself past Martin Cronje, close behind Enzo Benito, was that the point that you thought, okay, this championship's over? And how crazy were those last couple of laps, seeing that incredible gaggle of traffic ahead of yourself and pretty much in the midst of your teammate, Enzo Benito?
Yeah, it's never nice to see a big group of cars in front of you on the last laps. So, but yeah, I was in a good position. Martin was quite a big gap behind, so I was able to take it easy, and I had no point in overtaking Enzo, and he deserved to win at least one race this season. So I was able to take it easy and didn't have to really push at the end.
Rachel, you may now talk.
Yes, sir. Gregor, firstly, congratulations on the championship, but I want to know about the race today because you seem to have not quite the same pace as Martin Cronje early on. First stint, about the same. You did gain towards the end. Second stint, about lap 46. Did you, in fact, strap rocket motors to your car? Because it seemed like you shaved off 3 to 4 tenths of a second for those 4 laps before you pitted. Was that a team decision? Did you know that you needed to gain that time to beat him out of the pits? Or was it just a pure drive issue? Were you just going for it?
No, I was just pushing like crazy all the time from lap 1, really. And I was a bit heavier on the first 2 stints, so I think it came down to that. And on the last stint, we had the same fuel, but I had newer tires, so the last stint was a bit easier. And yeah, it always comes down to fuel, and it makes a big difference if you go if you have like 2 laps more fuel, or 2 or 3 laps, so it makes a big difference.
Well, I'm just looking at the results here, Gregor, because not only did you secure the championship, but you ran the fastest lap of the race today of a 1 minute 10.191, which is about a tenth and a half faster than Martin in 3rd place. So a brilliant run from you today and a dominating performance.
Thanks.
And Gregor, just before we let you go, would you like to say any words at all in Finnish to your fans?
I'd rather not.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, he is a 4-time champion. Gregor Huttu, thank you very much for talking to us. And again, congratulations on being a 4-time champion.
Thanks, guys, and a great job all season with the broadcasts.
Thank you. Rachel, I mean, It's something that back in 2013, when I started doing this full time, it was crazy to think three-time champion, and it was Hutu versus Afala, which is going to be the better driver, who's going to have the most championships under their belt. Then Hutu won in 2013, Afala let his championship slide. 2014, Afala could still win his third title, but now Hutu still has at least one more championship over Afala. We have now got to ask that question. Is Gregor Hutu the greatest iRacer of all time?
It's a tough question to ask, Will, because we are talking now about road and oval racing, two very different disciplines with different driving talents. And I think we just got rid of Gregor there because I think he didn't want to hear us talking about him so much. But no, he has an amazing history and an amazing innate ability to drive these cars. In fact, whatever he gets into, he's fast. I remember him actually going to America with iRacing themselves and driving a real, what was it, Formula Ford, or was it Skip Barber car, sorry,
It would have been Skip
and
Barber,
a Star Mazda car, Skip Barber and a Star Mazda, and he was innately quick in both of them. And of course, this is a guy who does not have a driver's license. Gregor is one of those people that naturally understands the balance of the vehicle and what he's doing, and that is an incredible amount of skill in somebody, and it's not a skill that's as necessary in oval racing. Not to say that some of the greats haven't had that, but I think Raul Fowler is a different type of driver. He has extreme strengths and is an incredibly talented driver, but I don't think he's even in the same class as Gregor, because Gregor has shown consistently that he is just unstoppable. You know, he is the alien of aliens. He is the ET to your Predator.
Yes. And Daniel, I mean, we are, of course, comparing apples and oranges here. At the same time, NASCAR racing has got a very different skill set. You've got to be not only comfortable, but good in running in traffic. Being able to pull out that lead out front and break the toe of the cars behind you. Be able to work yourself up when, you know, drivers go off strategy. It's a very different skill set from what we have here in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. And anyone who watched coverage of the 2012 iRacing.com World Cup of Racing will remember that Hutu did take on an oval, and until he was involved in a late race incident, did do incredibly well. But we do, I think, arguably need to see Ray Alfala back in a road course car. Unfortunately, the last time he was in one of those was the iRacing.com All-Star race, when he unfortunately met the Wall of Champions.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm just going to go back to one of the points you said where when Hutu was driving on the oval, and the fact that he was involved in a late race incident. I mean, I know on the oval side it partly is luck. I mean, on any incident and being involved, sometimes you do have bad luck with that sort of stuff. But a lot of some of the very good oval drivers, Ray Fowler included in this, is very good at seeing if a wreck's going to happen and reading where the car's going to go. And they're very good at wreck avoidance, avoiding wrecks, and that's sometimes how they get up the front. So as Rachel said, two very different skill sets required for each discipline of racing.
And at the same time, let's not forget, Jake Sturgis is our perfect example here, Rachel. He's a race winner in the NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com. He's come mighty close in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. But that point that Daniel just made about things like wreck avoidance and spatial awareness, which is, of course, so critical in the NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series, Jake Sturgis has that in abundance. And we see him do some incredible things on the racetrack.
Absolutely, and that's one big benefit that you see in oval drivers. You spend so much more time around other cars that you learn to have almost a sixth sense for position. And this isn't, obviously, of course, I'm not talking the World Championship level here, but from my personal experience, I remember when the Star Mazda series went to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, this is a series that's road drivers, okay? And these road drivers, most of them not oval drivers, were suddenly finding themselves in an open wheel car on an oval circuit, and it was appalling. They couldn't run next to each other. They had loose setups that were very good on their own, but as soon as you ran another car, they weren't predictable enough to stay too wide, and it really shows you the car control and that awareness that oval drivers possess. It is 200-mile-an-hour chess, whereas, let's say, the World Grand Prix Series, your open wheel racing, it's more like 200-mile-an-hour swing ball.
Yes. And again, we could have this conversation for the next 4 hours and probably not come to consensus. We have got the top 10 up on your screen. Confirmation: Enzo Benito is a winner in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, joining Martin Cronke, Ollie Picala, and Alexei Usiakola as first-time winners this year. And I do need to ask you drivers of the race before we go off air, and I'll start with you first, Daniel.
That's a really hard decision. I mean, Enzo drove really well to win his first race in the series, but Gregor again pulled out the strategy to get ahead of Cronke and win the race. I'm gonna have to call Enzo. I mean, he drove pretty much flawlessly the whole race, and his technical glitches didn't happen, and he was rewarded with his first win.
Rachel?
I'm going to have to be controversial here and say Rocco Baroni was my driver of the race. He had some awful luck, some awful trouble he got into, but you know what? He kept the car going and he actually did okay. That was a really good race with bad equipment.
I think Baroni did a great job here today. There were a couple of people who did some really good jobs up and down the field. I think personally, I might actually have to give it to Sturgis, because I think he's had an absolutely stunning race here again. He's had a good run, and what he does is he now moves himself ahead of Hugo Louise up into the top 5 in the championship, trying to get top 5s in both the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and also in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. To run through your championship standings then, Gregor Hutu with 562 points and a total of 276 laps led this year, 8 wins and 12 top 5 finishes, is once again your champion for the 4th time. Martin Cronke, 503 points, is now mathematically unable to get himself to championship contention, but he is in the championship. Ollie Picala is in 3rd. He's still got a bit of a battle with Alexei Usiakola, his own teammate, for the 4th position in the championship. Jake Sturgis, well, arguably he can get 4th. 3rd is just a little bit too far away from him now. Hugo Louise, of course, he retired from competition a little bit earlier on, and he is now in 6th place in the championship. Andre Borch is 7th, Enzo Benito 8th, Isaac Price in 9th, and then it is Ilka Hapala who rounds out your top 10. And, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it is time for us to end our coverage of this, the 15th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here. Thank you for joining me in the booth here. And, of course, congratulations to both Enzo Benito, a first-time winner in the championship, and to Gregor Hutu, who is, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll say it one more time, a 4-time iRacing.com World Champion. For myself, Will Vincent, this has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Next time iRacing Live will be back in action will be on the 7th of October from the Homestead Miami Speedway, 167 laps on iRacing Live, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and PSR TV. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time from 1:30 p.m. the concluding round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series that will take place from Circuit of the Americas. Gregor Hutu, congratulations one more time. You are now, again, an iRacing World Champion.